Alrighty, guys. So people keep asking me to watch Destiny debating Just Pearly Things. And he's got 2 videos about it, right? He's got his first one, which is Destiny debates Just Pearly Things on feminism and trans issues. And then, of course, on Andrew Tate. So let's start with the one that came out first. This is the Destiny debates Just Pearly Things on feminism. Let's get it going, dude.
So how many women are on the panel?
I don't remember. Roughly 8, 9, I would say.
Okay, so less than 10. And of the 8 or 9 women, you do remember because you said 8 or 9.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, they're talking about that the Vice thing, I think.
There were 2 trans women?
Yeah, 2.
Okay, so this is not a knock against trans people.
I don't believe that you care about that. I don't believe any.
Oh, is he trying to say that there's a disproportionate trans women representation there? Okay, I guess. We'll see what he means full context. I think that's the point he's trying to make, is that there were 2 trans women when statistically only like 1% of women are trans women. I guess. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he was talking about.
Any conservative say, because if it was, where the was the uproar against all of the creepy pageant shows before the trans bathroom became a thing?
True.
Because of that issue, I will never believe a conservative when they tell me they care about trans kids being groomed or whatever. I just don't believe it. I think it's a niche issue because Republicans have no economic platform. They have no idea about what they want to do with anything, so they focus on these really niche cultural issues. There was a survey that came out asking what percentage of the American population do you think is trans, and I think people said like 24%. Holy sh!
But I understand.
I think like in California, the identification of LGBTQ for kids is like 20% or something like that. I think that's maybe what they're referencing. I have no idea.
You were recently on a episode of Vice on a panel. What you were discussing feminism and modern women. What was the biggest takeaway from that episode?
Destiny plugged this video. I also did that, guys. Just look it up. Okay.
That you learned.
Oh my gosh, that's the most crazy people I've ever met in my life. We were there for like 6 hours, and they edited it down to like 45 minutes.
That's how editing works.
Yeah.
Where were you, in London?
Yeah, I don't doubt that. That's kind of the game, unfortunately. Same thing with like on the street content.
No, I was in New York.
Okay, New York. Gotcha.
What was my biggest takeaway? I didn't really take. It was just. It was nuts. That's what I would say.
Really? But did you watch it?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on what Pearl had going on there?
Obviously, I disagree with everything Pearl says. Almost all of the things having to do with women. But my biggest issue with progressives cutting out conservatives from every platform they can is they lose the ability to defend any of their ideas. And then at the end of the day, I think they just end up looking horrible. Like you'll get questions of like, well, what's one barrier? I think you asked, what's one barrier that you have as a woman in society? And it's like, well,
yeah, true. And then they started like going off. They didn't have an answer for it. They couldn't really talk about it. That is a problem. Like this is one of the things, and it comes down to when you agree with the side that is more culturally accepted, it generally leads to people not really questioning it because it's accepted. I know that sounds like really weird. But like, for instance, if you live in a country where it's like accepted to like hate gay people, you're not going to have a reason to hate gay people. Or you're not going to have like a super fleshed out perspective on like why it's okay to hate gay people because you never had to challenge your thought because you live in the society that thinks that that's okay. Just like in like America where we love gay people, they're the best. For the people who believe in that like more culturally acceptable narrative, they've never had to challenge themselves, and so a lot of times these things may be true. I mean, there's no reason to hate gay people. But like, there are barriers for women. There's more social barriers, and there are things that are changing every day. Like women aren't really taught to advocate for themselves. So when it comes to like high level business marketing and whatnot, or business stuff, and they don't really advocate for themselves when it comes to like advocating for higher wage, which is one of the reasons why like the gay wage gap isn't 80%, it's 98% once you like normalize a bunch of factors. But you see the wage gap. I say wage or age. Anyway, the wage gap when it's like in those positions where you have to advocate for yourself, because we don't teach women to advocate for themselves as much because like you're considered a bitch, right? Those are the areas, like stuff like that is where it manifests itself more than anything else. But they don't really have it fleshed out because they've never had to challenge themselves on it.
I'm handicapped. I don't have any legs. Or it's like, well, I'm black. Or like, okay, what about the woman part, right? Nobody could answer that question. So you got a panel full of people that probably all have like feminist.
This is a very white male perspective, Destiny.
Dollar bullshit in their Twitter bios. Not a single person can answer that question. So yeah, I don't know. Things like that like really bother me when people are supposed to be defending these ideas and they can't because they don't talk to conservatives anymore.
So there are no conservatives on the panel, you're saying?
She was, and then
there's 2.
No, what he's saying is that generally speaking, people aren't engaging with conservatives and like challenging their ideas back and forth.
I would say there was
how many women were on the panel?
Supposed to be like they.
How many women? Let me just use
I don't know,
term.
8, 9 maybe.
And they were all women.
Let me just use that term.
No.
Oh, careful.
No.
Slippery slope.
There was 4 that were supposed to be
winning.
conservative, but I would say they got 2 middle of the road and 2 actually.
How many trans women?
2.
2 trans women
Yeah.
out of 8
And then they were
people
trying
on
to
the.
tell me I had to play against men in sports. Oh my God. It's always the most unathletic people. It's the most unathletic people that are saying I have to put my body on the.
Yeah, true. She was right about the trans sports thing. Like, I mean, it's just the reality, you know. I would never want to, like, it's unfortunate, but like trans women that go through a male puberty are, you know, to maintain those advantages. A lot of them.
By the way, okay, I didn't see the panel, but I gotta watch it, and then I'm gonna come back to you. Did you see it by any chance?
No.
See the panel?
No.
So how many women were on the panel?
I don't remember. Roughly 8, 9, I would say.
Okay, so less than 10. And of the 8 or 9 women, you do remember because you said 8 or 9.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. There were 2 trans women?
Yeah, 2.
Okay, so this
Weirdly pushy there on her, but okay.
is not a knock against trans people. How many white, black, Latino, Asian women, how many fat women, short women? Give me a breakdown if you could, real quick.
Like, yes, there's going to be disproportionate like representation from like black people and like trans people, blah, 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 et cetera, for sure. Yeah.
It was like the most diverse panel.
It was
There was
really
like fat people,
diverse,
there were people of
yeah.
color, there were people
So
of
it was a
different
diverse.
religions.
So they were
Yeah.
solving for diversity.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so if you're solving for inclusion and diversity and equity and all that fun stuff that people talk about,
Which I don't think is wrong in this instance. You don't have to have proportionate representation in this instance. I think that they just need intelligent people representing their perspectives. Because, like, you know, obviously, you don't want to turn into like a gang up type of thing, which kind of ended up happening a little bit because of the progressives were fucking. Some of them were a little rabid. Not that I disagreed with what they said, but the idea is like, let's just have one trans woman. That might make the trans woman feel a little uncomfortable. So like, hey, let's add 2. Let's add some like a couple of black people in there to make black people a little more comfortable. Because like in this specific space, you know, it's like, oh yeah, we had accurate representation. So like most of the people were like white. What were you, like? I mean, you'd have to have like 100 people in the room to have the correct percentage of the trans people. I thought it was fine that they did it like that.
what percentage of women are trans?
Probably what, less than a
In
percent?
general.
I don't know.
I would guess less than
0.1%?
1%.
So why would you even have 1 trans woman on that panel, much less 2?
Well, just to have the perspective there, and then like 2, so that they felt a little more comfortable being there. That's pretty much it. Which I don't think is.
So okay, if you're gonna have 1 trans woman on that panel, cool, I get it, throw that in. But you know how they say the system is rigged? That is rigging the system.
they
There's no
just-
need to have 2 trans women.
I think it would have been a little better maybe if they had a conservative and a progressive trans woman. Would have been a little bit better, in my opinion. That probably would have made it. A little more fair.
On a panel representing women.
They just literally wanted them there so they could tell me I have to play sports with dudes. Like that's literally what they wanted them there for.
And that's like one of the things. Like, listen, I understand. Like, you know, I understand. Well, first of all, I don't think trans women should be playing with cis women in like competitive sports. I'm sorry if you're trans. Like, there's a maintenance of like biological advantages. I know there's no trans person trying to be trans just for that, but you know, it could hurt a cisgender woman. But like also constantly calling them men, like it's just kind of like a point of like disrespect. You know, I think that Pearl knows that, but whatever it is.
Bullshit.
And no, it's absolutely bullshit because it's like, it's always the most unathletic people telling the athletes what we got to do.
That
And I'm
part's
like,
true, yeah.
you want me to go up against guys? Women, we don't have much opportunity in women's sports, and you're going to give the little opportunity we have to men?
Yeah.
Which was funny because that would be a way that women are disadvantaged. They don't have as much of a sports opportunity, which makes sense. They don't make as much money. It's not as entertaining, but still, like, women don't choose to be born women, right? So like, you know, if you were born a man, you would have been able to be in a more competitive, more, you know, promising potential career by playing with other men that have more financial access to like actually, you know, being a professional successful pathway. So you could say that. Obviously there's nothing we could do about that, but it's just something to bring up when it comes to like the difference between men and women.
Kidding me? Like, oh no.
So you must agree with her on that. You don't think
Yeah, but
trans
it's like the only
men
thing I
should
agree
be
on. So I
playing
don't
in.
focus on this topic.
So
But yeah,
that
of
was the
course,
only thing you
I think
agree
this
with.
is like this was like part of the big controversy that got banned from Twitch in the middle of.
For what?
That cis women and trans women shouldn't be competing in the same leagues is ridiculous.
And just for the record, this term cis woman, is that just a woman?
That's what us
Yeah, that's a non-trans woman. Yeah,
progressives use to what you would say just a woman. Yeah.
Explain what the hell this cis thing is.
There's like
it just means you were born a woman, and it just means that you're a biological woman and you identify as a woman. It's like pretty. I feel like people know that, and they just like to pretend that they've never heard of it before. But
you're either trans or cis, basically. So cisgender is like the gender you present as trans is like you're something different, basically. Yeah. So like a trans woman versus a cis woman.
What?
Don't look at me like that. You don't understand that. Come on, we're still
I'm
young.
learning
Okay.
here,
you
bro.
understand.
I'm learning
Yeah.
here. So if you're just a woman, you're no longer a woman. You're a cis woman.
Well, if you're talking in trans space, that's probably what they'd use. Listen, I already got the f***ing blue hair, okay? You're gonna put me on the stand for trans issues too? Jesus Christ.
You're the one that got
You want to
canceled
talk about
for
affirmative action next? What else do you want
I
to
don't
nail me
know.
on? Oh my God.
So,
But yeah,
okay.
cis women versus trans women.
that's the only thing you agree.
Oh my gosh.
it's weird because like if you're just like, yeah, I don't like, I'm not affirming of trans or cis women, like whatever, but it's just like, oh, I hate the fake outrage of being called a cis person. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, just say that you don't agree with the trans ideology. Whatever. I disagree with you, but fine. But like, you're going to pretend to be like this victim by being like, oh, this is ridiculous. And you're going to like stammer. Like, you don't really care. Like, it's, you know, just say like, yeah, I think the whole thing is silly. And it's just another point to like pretend to be offended by.
Sorry.
So just to be clear, you don't think that trans women should be participating in women's sports?
Zero.
Fully agree.
No.
We also
Yeah, not competitive sports, like whatever non-competitive sports. Like, I don't really care about.
So the Leah Thomas thing, right?
It's ridiculous. I don't think they should be in our bathrooms either.
That's a little different. I don't really care about that. It's for, you know what? Here's my thing when it comes to like being in the bathroom or whatever. I think it's more about like, not to be transphobic, but passability. You know, if you're not a particularly passing trans woman, I could see why a cisgender woman would see you as a potential threat, because you know, men have like that physical power dynamic, and I could see it making you uncomfortable in the bathroom and making you feel like you might be like a little bit threatened. You know, like if I just started my transition and I had a shaved beard, but I had like a 9 o'clock shadow, and you know, I was like as big as I am and everything, and you were afraid of me in the bathroom as a woman, like I would get it. It sucks for the trans person because I don't think that there's a single trans person that's the actual trans person just going to the bathroom to be like a predator. But I could understand, and so I think that we could have a conversation about that. But then at like the same time, well, yeah, I get that, but I understand that. I think that we should move towards like, what is it called? Like it's like single stall bathrooms or whatever, like co-op not co-op. You know what I'm saying? Like single bathrooms. You know?
Yeah.
Like I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, the bathrooms thing is silly. Obviously, you should go to the bathroom that like you express as.
What?
Express?
Yeah, express. So, like if you're actually more passable,
Says.
I would imagine.
Do you all know who Blair White is?
Yeah.
I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you obviously wouldn't want, like I wouldn't want Blair White in the men's room. I would feel uncomfortable, you know? So that's where I think he's going with that.
Yeah. Do you want Blair White walking into the bathroom with like a little boy? Or do you want Buck Angel walking into a bathroom with like a little girl? Obviously, we believe that you should probably go to the bathroom that you express as. That makes the most sense.
I would just prefer to not see dicks in the locker room. That's just my
Then don't-
Well, you don't. Yeah, I get that too. Just, I guess, be a little more, you know, hide your wiglet.
They just have their own
That's a
bathroom.
fair ask.
That's just
Yeah.
my personal opinion, and I also think it's like a safety concern.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the
It is interesting because I agree it could be a safety concern, but it's mostly going to be people who like fake identify just to go in there and be predators. But what's interesting is that like Pearl's on the side of like, like where she'll generally say that there's no that like women aren't oppressed, but then acknowledge that like a man is physically stronger and could hurt women. So like there's a level of oppression there from a social perspective of like men, you know, physically taking advantage of women when it comes to like sexual assault and stuff like that. So it's a little bit interesting that, you know, she doesn't think too critically on that.
majority of trans people are going to take advantage of it. It's just I think that opens the door to someone that will.
I don't think so. There's not a single time like the legendary like trans rapist that's like making their way through the bathrooms. Like, and the fact that if this person did exist, like some woman would be running through the store and she goes into the bathroom and like the sign stops the trans person from going in and raping her. Like, also, no offense.
That's true. Yeah. Also, though, my thing is like people they're outraged by the potential of like a person that's not trans, like saying that they're trans to go and predatorize somebody in the bathroom, but they're not to like molest like a little girl. Like, so they're worried about a guy basically faking being trans to molest little girls. But like, how come nobody? What about little boys? Like, nobody really seems to care too much about that. Like, little boys are just as vulnerable, but like we don't care necessarily about that. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it is some of the outrage is a little bit manufactured, but.
I have a son. I want all the trans rapists in the women's bathroom, okay? Like, that doesn't make sense either, right? Like, if there are all these rapists, why do you want to go into the boys' bathroom instead? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I reject the whole bathroom narrative. Is super silly. I don't think most people care that
So
much.
you would
I think
be
that people.
okay with a man walking into the bathroom a man dressed as a woman walking into the women's bathroom?
No, what he's saying is that he doesn't think that this is happening because of that. And like a rapist will just walk into the bathroom regardless of what the sign says on there. Because either way, like practically you'd have to go into like a really non-busy bathroom area that people aren't really noticing, because anybody that like looks like me going into the woman's bathroom is going to draw suspicion. You know,
I think that whatever
That's clearly a man.
I think that
Beard and all.
I think that whatever you clearly express as is probably where you go.
But they're confused. If you have a beard with a wig on and a
well, right, but he's saying I think he has to be more explicit. He's saying express as, like he's talking about people who are a bit more passable. You know what I mean? Like even if I tried to express as a woman, and maybe I'm wrong about it in my interpretation. I imagine like I wouldn't really be expressing as a woman well enough, but
a dress, and you're walking in the girls' bathroom, you're not a woman.
Sure,
you're confused.
Maybe not, but like, what is happening in there? Like, I don't know.
I have experienced that. I've experienced.
My wife, I think my wife's take on this last time we talked about it is she just doesn't care because it's a bathroom and who cares anymore, and which might be true. Maybe we should just do co-op bathrooms. I don't know. I'd feel uncomfortable about somebody looking at my wee-wee, potentially, but I guess dudes might look at it anyway. But they can't find it because it's so tiny, so I don't have to really worry about that. So that's actually my white privilege. So
Experience that.
Tell us
I've
we have to
experienced
deal
that.
with this.
Well, we would have to deal with trans men coming in the male bathroom as well, right?
I think they should have their own bathroom. That's really it's
I agree.
inappropriate.
Okay, you think there should be trans bathrooms? Okay,
Yes,
sure. Do you want
let
that?
there be a
You can
trans
just-
bathroom.
Believe it or not, there are countries, okay, where you can go. I spent a lot of time in Stockholm because my wife is Swedish. There are gender-neutral bathrooms. Nobody's getting raped. It's crazy. Everybody goes in. They all have their little fucking stuff.
let me ask you this.
interesting. Yeah, maybe that would work. Okay, yeah, that's my wife's take. Is like there's gender. Is that all right? Maybe. Maybe it's just like a thing where we're like afraid of something we've never seen before, like this game where I'm gonna lose.
He's raping each other.
I'm
Let
thinking
me
of it
say
from
one
the
thing.
perspective of a locker room. Like in a locker room, you walk around naked. Like
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a competitive anything, but when I was in the locker room, I did not walk around naked. You minimize your nudity in the locker room. Locker rooms are like traumatizing experiences as it is as a kid. You gotta walk around with my nipples out, bro. That's weird. I don't want to show people my nippies.
True that.
an athlete.
Number one, a lot of conservatives will use this bathroom thing as a straw man argument. Oh, my kids are getting raped in bathrooms. It's not happening.
It's not even
But
that.
here's an indicator. There's a case example of why they say that the America is crumbling and China is thriving. Hear me out.
Okay, I would love to see the example. That's just not true. I mean, I just want you to understand that it's simply not true that China is not thriving. Even if you think the country is thriving, which is I don't think it is, the people there are fucking miserable. Generally speaking, like being poor over there is objectively worse than being poor over here. You see the people who will like escape China and stuff, and they come here like it's fucking terrible over there. It's incredible over here. It's just like we need to stop pretending that China has like got it all figured out. You know, there are people throwing themselves off the top of factory buildings because they're so overworked, and we have overworking problems in America too, but not to the degree that they do. They have like normalized 6-day work weeks, like fucking 6 days a week, like 12 hours a day. So like we gotta stop pretending that things are so much more magical over there, because a lot of people are like, yeah, but if you look at their TikTok, it's full of like positive things, like trying to go get a job and inspirational stuff, and you know, basically that. And it's like, yeah, that probably is better, but then also that comes that they don't have freedom of speech. That's why their TikTok is so heavily regulated and ours isn't. Right now, you could say that there's positives and negatives, but at the end of the day, freedom of speech is very important, right? You can't even say like fucking Tiananmen Square happened or whatever it's called. You know what I mean? You can't even say like I love Hong Kong. You can't even say I stand with Tibet, or you will get like a literal, you know. So, and also they have like crazy technology that like tracks you, and they have like social points. It's crazy. Watch the video about it a while back. It's nuts. I would not want to live in China. Okay, America is much better than China. Okay.
Yeah.
You think they're having trans bathroom arguments in countries like China
No, they're not allowed to have conversations in China. So of course they're not going to have that fucking argument.
that is lapping USA as far as like GDP?
I agree.
Here we are on a panel. We can talk about anything.
The what? So my understanding of the reason why China's like GDP is up so high is obviously they just throw human suffering at stuff, but also they're not considered they're still considered a developing country, so they don't have the same regulations until I think like 2030, which is an issue of like the way that America decided to enforce with China. So like that's that much of an issue. Now I don't understand the specifics of it. I'm not going to pretend that I have a robust understanding, but that's more why that they have this high GDP than anything else. They're throwing bodies at things. Like of course, if you start to care about human rights and like actual like 40-hour work weeks, and you start to try to pay people better, you're going to see like a reduction in GDP. That's why you shouldn't be centralizing like the success of a country around fucking GDP. That's why.
And we're going ham on bathroom trans bearded dudes.
agree with that.
And we're just spending time as a country talking about stuff that doesn't affect our lives.
Exactly. So like who cares then? If your argument said it doesn't affect our lives, then like why do you care so much even to have the conversation in either direction? Like not just in the progressive direction, like in the conservative direction. You know, we're so distracted on trans issues that we don't talk about like real shit, like people getting paid the right wage. You know, people are very easily forced like outraged by like little stuff. They get distracted. I don't know what to tell you.
Even a little bit.
I think to
Okay,
some-
hold on. Whereas in other countries, they're like, get shit done, work, make shit happen. Let the Americans play their little, you know, hide the hot dog game in the trans fucking bathroom situation while we're getting lapped by China. That's my problem with this.
I agree
It's
with
like
you.
this is such not an issue that anyone gives shit a bit about. And this goes back to my bigger point. If there's a women's panel and there's 8 women on the panel, you're telling me you have 2 trans women? Okay, if you had 100 women on a panel, 100, you can maybe make the case for making 1 trans woman. Maybe. On a 10-woman panel, you're putting 2 trans on there?
Yeah, again, I think it's just to have like representation from different people overall. I think that they should just do a better job putting more conservative women on there.
Get the fuck out of here, Vice.
And I'm fascist because I don't
Yeah.
want to play with men in sports.
Yeah, the sports thing is fair.
Push
The
button.
thing
Yeah.
that you brought up, first of all, China has like 2
Get
billion
destroyed here.
people. Okay,
1.5.
They're gonna pass us eventually. All right,
I know, but-
probably. Okay,
yeah, the
it's
more
not
we
gonna be.
focus-
It's
the
not
more
gonna be
we
because we're talking
focus
about
on
trans bathrooms. Okay,
But the
also,
more we focus on that,
sure, I'll agree with you.
we're
Then tell
losing.
conservatives to stop obsessing over it so much.
I agree with
okay?
you.
All right,
This is the
that's
straw
some
man
shit that's brought
argument.
up by conservatives all the time.
Okay, we agree with you.
obsess-
Dude, liberals always take the bait.
That is true. Progressives take the bait. I agree. They
Because
do.
they get snowflaked.
I would just like to say,
The no flaked. Interesting. There only seems to be one, not for nothing, but like I don't agree. I don't think that he really cares about proportionality because this entire podcast is all conservative people and Just and Destiny, which is more progressive. It's like you don't really care about proportionality necessarily. It's just about having people there to talk about their perspectives. But
I just would rather not see in the bathroom. That's just
Yeah,
my
agreed.
personal
Absolutely.
preference.
And it's not
Close
even
your eyes, I
about being
guess.
raped. Like, you can be out and you're at a dinner place and they're at a bar. This person comes in drunk. They're aggressive. They're a man in a woman's bathroom. They cut the line. Now it's a fight. And then he knocks her out. Like, there's more than just being.
maybe. Is this a real concern? I just never heard this scenario. I just don't think is ever going to happen. So a trans person comes into a bar super drunk, acting like a man, and then they cut the woman's line. Why would you cut the woman's line? If I was a trans person that wasn't passable, I would use the men's bathroom because first of all, it's cleaner because women are disgusting animals that piss, shit, and fucking bleed all over the place. And second of all, there's no line to the men's bathroom. Have you ever gone anywhere? Men's bathrooms, like, there's no line because women take so fucking long. Buy a shiwi, piss in the fucking toilet, and get out.
Raped. You can have an overly, like, I've experienced that. I was in the bathroom. This man walked in with a beard and a dress, and he thought I stole his phone, and he got aggressive with me, and I had to leave the bathroom. I'm the woman in the bathroom, and it's like you feel the need to come in here because you feel.
Why do you think you stole, or sorry, them? I feel like, I just don't believe this scenario. Why do you think that this person stole your phone? Why do they think you? Okay,
Feel like
whatever.
I'm dressed
Let's
this way,
see
so
what's
I
in.
can come into the bathroom. That's where it, like,
Okay.
for me, it's like I.
Maybe it was like literally just a guy in a dress that went in there because they thought that this person stole their phone. Like, I thought you stole my phone. I'm going into the woman's bathroom to get it back. I don't really care. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Have more of a worry of that than like being raped in a bathroom. If you want me to be honest, by
I'm
these
with you. I'd
people.
rather not see in the bathroom too.
It's I mean,
We'll just don't look at it.
I don't look at other
Including
guys'
a male's
dicks. Yeah, I
bathroom.
don't usually look at dicks in the
Okay.
bathroom, but I don't know if
Guys,
there's other bathroom habits. you guys are
PSA
in.
out there, okay? For all the guys in the bathroom, face forward, all right? There's no talking to the side in the urinal. How's
Yeah,
your
I agree
day?
with
There's no
this.
coming from behind, giving a massage.
Whoa, do not come from behind. Come in the front. At least look me in the eyes. You know what I'm saying?
This ain't the fucking movies.
ass
Along Came
pushed.
Polly, all right?
Well,
Face forward, don't talk.
I mean, I'm just
That goes to
thinking-
Uber drivers as well. Just drive me around.
I'm just thinking like
Classic
of locker rooms. So when you're like you walk around half naked when you're in locker rooms. Like I don't want a dude in the
Is this what people actually do in locker rooms? Like they walk around like legitimately half naked? I just never. That was never my experience. Like I feel like if you're in like a bathroom with like your like let's say you're okay. So here's what I think is happening here. Pearl is and like she's an athlete. Like she's like I don't know exactly what she is. She's not like pro, but I think she's like a really good athlete. So maybe in the locker room with all of the people on her team, she's walking around more comfortably and half naked. But if you're in an uncomfortable area, there's no way you're walking around half naked all the time. Like I just don't believe it. Like maybe like that's a totally different situation in a locker room where you're just with like people like at the YMCA. Unless you're an old man, you're not walking around naked. Old men, honestly, we need to ban them from locker rooms. I mean, for real, it's disgusting. They're going around with like walking around with their dongs hanging out. I don't get it. Like, what's the appeal? Like, why do you need to do that? It's disgusting, and I think that we need to stand for more firmly against those people.
bathroom.
I agree.
Well, ban old
Yeah.
men.
By the way,
It's such a weird
Shifting
American
gears-
fascination
shifting
with like
gears.
nudity and boobs and dicks and everything. It's like so
Love
fucking
boobs.
cancerous.
Yeah,
It's like
I'm
so
so-
fucking weird.
Well,
It's
look
like,
at the
holy
rise
shit.
of all the confusion with what's going on. There's kids being taught by drag queens at school. Like, this is a rise of it. It becomes an issue where it's like you have
Maybe
people who are, change your gender and do all these things, and it's like,
the conversation can be a little bit confusing for sure, and I think that sometimes we overcorrect. I mean, listen, if you take your kid to a drag anything, like whatever, I don't know if that what they should be teaching in schools, but if you're going to take your kid to a drag show, like whatever, I don't really care. May not be the most appropriate place for them, but I mean, that's up to the parent, I suppose. But
there's a time and a place for that, and to force it upon people who makes them feel uncomfortable, like that's also unfair as well. And for me to be forced to accept it, that's also like, why do I have to accept this man in the bathroom?
I
think
don't
that's heavily
believe I
exaggerated.
don't believe that you care about that. I don't believe any conservative say because if it was, where the was the uproar against all of the creepy pageant shows before the trans bathroom came?
true. I mean, those are much more disgusting than like bathroom stuff. But like people do talk constantly about like drag queens and stuff, but nobody cares about the over sexualization of like little girls. It's only now that it's little boys it's a problem, but when it was little girls, nobody cares. Like people don't understand that like all these sexualized drag shows, the reason that drag is more sexualized than it ever has been is because drag has always imitated like usually famous like women. Like Aretha Franklin and stuff, and it's like a point of respect and honor. And now it's become like music has become so sexual that you have all these like, you know, younger girls making music for even younger girls to look at, and you got fucking 12-year-olds popping their pussy. It's disgusting, but nobody cares that much about that. Nobody's really active like this needs to really stop. But they're super active against like drag, and it's like, well, why not both at the same time? I don't think that like the sexualization is inappropriate regardless. You know, like. Let's take the first step and focus on not allowing like cheerleaders in high school to be like dressing provocatively, because like some of the dances are kind of gross. Some of the outfits are kind of gross. You know what I mean? Like let's ban beauty pageants for everybody. But at least like, you know, maybe under 18. I don't know. They're bad. I just feel like it's gross. The whole culture is disgusting. So.
Him a thing. Because of that issue, I will never believe a conservative when they tell me they care about trans kids being groomed or whatever. I just don't believe it. I think it's a niche issue because Republicans have no economic platform. Republicans have no fucking goals for the country. All they can do is obstruct Democrats. They have no idea about what they want to do with anything. So they focus on these really niche fucking cultural issues. There was a survey that came out asking what percentage of the American population do you think is trans? And I think people said like 24%. Holy shit. I like there are.
And he did a really good job just like railroading the fuck out of them. I'm not even criticizing them.
Some people where I buy the argument that they're obsessed or they're worried about like kids or whatever. But like prior to this, like people would post pictures of taking their like 9-year-old boys to Hooters, and it would be a funny fucking Facebook picture. Or you have all like the really creepy, really weird pageantry shit, and nobody seemed to care about any of it back then. But now the trans people are involved. It's like the worst thing ever. So I just don't buy it. I don't believe it. But
let's leave that there, right there. Okay, so getting back to the Vice episode. You started off by saying the trans thing, the women in the trans in sports was the one thing you agreed with Pearl on. What did you fundamentally disagree that Pearl said? Because she's a pretty reasonable girl. What did you disagree with?
Oh man, you're gonna tax my memory here. I think that the wholesale idea of like women have it easier in every single thing, or there are like no cultural roadblocks preventing women from doing anything, I think it's like a really crude analysis of where we're at socially.
True. I mean, listen, I think that men and women both have like issues. I mean, that's just where I'm at. Men and women are both facing different issues, and that's it. I don't think that it's productive to constantly compare who has it harder, men versus women. If you ask me personally, I think women have it harder. But maybe I'm wrong. That might be more anecdotal. But there are issues that women deal with and struggles that women deal with. And men as well. I don't think it's productive to say who struggles more. I think it's good to acknowledge some of the issues that men and women face, and I think it's good to try to work against them, but not create a victim complex. That's where I'm at. The conversations about that, like who has it harder, are so unproductive that they don't do anything. Because now we're just like, oh, who has it harder? Well, I do. Well, I do. It's like, well, you know, that's not productive. That's just a victim complex.
That's what I would say.
So you're saying that she's discounting how hard
I think
women
that there are issues that women face in a lot of different areas when it comes to like rising in terms of success or in being included in certain like
Okay, so this is a very interesting dynamic that you guys have going right now. You're the man saying that, like, defending women, and she's the woman shitting on women, essentially. Is that the dynamic I'm understanding?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that's totally appropriate, unless you're gonna like super jerk off like an identity politics narrative. Yeah, sure.
So she's basically saying this is what it is like to be a woman.
I would say shitting.
Well, that's her experience of being a woman, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, that doesn't mean that she's right. It also doesn't mean she doesn't get to have her own perspective. We shouldn't shame people in either direction, because it feels like, and maybe I'm overthinking it, it feels like he's trying to be like, well, this is the woman saying what she thinks, so she's probably right, and now you're a man speaking over her. That's the energy I'm getting, and I could be completely wrong on that read, but it's like, okay. But then, like, that's the same energy as if, like, a woman was like, I'm oppressed, everything's oppressive, and a guy's like, I don't think that you're as oppressed as you think you are, and all of a sudden we shit on the guy. Like, you're allowed to have a perspective on a particular topic regardless of any identity that you have, right?
I would say there's no barriers to entry today.
I don't think Pearl believes there's no issues that women face.
She does. That's why she's expressed it.
It's different, right?
You don't run defense for her. Let her speak for herself here.
No, that's literally what she just said. There's no.
She doesn't think that there's any barriers. She doesn't think that women, like this guy, literally, no, she. That's like the classic interpretation from like an apologist, a Pearl apologist. No, she thinks that women are oppressed. And you know what? Let's be real. Pearl's idea that women aren't oppressed in today's society is going to make her succeed more than a lot of other women. That's the reality. Because women do have hurdles to overcome, but Pearl not leaning into it is going to mean that she's not going to create a victim mentality from it, right? Whereas other people go too far, and they don't just acknowledge that there are some issues that women face. They create a victim mentality, and then they decide that every interaction that they ever have is because they're a woman, rather than trying to do the best that they can to focus on themselves. So like, I disagree with Pearl. Obviously, women do have, like, you know, face different forms of oppression, just like men do as well. But she's going to end up being more successful because she's not going to have victim brain, and it's just that's just kind of the truth. So.
Literally, what she said was it's easier for women than men.
No, there's a difference between there's no barriers to entry and there's no issues that a woman can face. You wouldn't say there's no issues.
Well, no, yeah, she said that women have it easier than men. So yeah, she doesn't think that women have problems at all.
Cases there, would you?
I mean, there are issues that women face, but I would say overall it's easier for women than men. Yeah.
Yeah. See.
Like
Easier in what regard? What are we talking about here?
I mean, I just think
Just being a man versus being a woman, you're saying it's easier to be a woman?
I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. So I worked a sales job, right? And when I worked in that sales job, I was at a big like corporate company. And I feel like I got special treatment because I was a woman.
Probably, maybe, yeah.
And most of the guys, and I was the only girl in the office. And most of the guys would agree because like people were more willing to help you when you're a young woman, in my experience.
Yeah, probably. That's true. See, my problem is if she said like, yeah, I think women have it easier than men, but women still have it hard, I'd be all over it. But like the way that she talks about issues that women face, she just dismisses that their existence in general for the most part. She'll say like, oh no, I think that women have some trouble, but she doesn't really like act like it. She kind of just always dismisses any issue that a woman like brings up. And so like if she was more nuanced, like I said, like I think women have it harder than men. But I think that men still have it hard. You know what I mean? If that was her perspective, I think women have it easier than men, but they still have it hard. Then I'd be like, okay, whatever. Who cares? Because the specifics don't really matter. It's just about like acknowledging the struggle and moving forward.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to your personal experience, but so this is something that I hear a lot. When women are succeeding in certain types of environments, they do get special treatment, but all of those women's careers have a time limit on them, which is until a manager or a boss tries to fuck them, and when they say no, they're basally fucked in that job. This is a story that I hear time and time and time and time and time again. Do you think this happens ever?
Quite often, the
Yes.
boss loses his job.
No.
No. That's a new thing. That's a good thing that the boss loses their job, but quite often is not true. A lot of these things stay under the cuff for quite a long time. So
Absolutely
Every
not.
time there's-
Absolutely.
If he does
Every time the
sexual
story goes public, but you don't hear the story that goes public. Like this happens to. I've heard this from almost every single woman working in entertainment and working in any industry peripheral to this, that if you're a moderately attractive woman working, yeah, like you're working, you might be succeeding, but you never know if you're actually succeeding based on the merits of your work or if it's because somebody wants to fuck you. And when somebody tries to fuck you, if you shut them down, you're fucked. Because whoever's above you hates you now and they're never going to fucking promote you or work with you anymore. And then you slowly basically get ghosted out of whatever job you're working.
Man.
Is that a
Either way, or you go to
generalization, though, or
HR
is
and you
that-
make $1 million.
Do what?
Or you go to HR and the dude gets fired.
yeah, it is a generalization, but the same thing what he's doing is generalizing. Yeah, you could go to HR and it could happen, but a lot of times people aren't going to go to HR for this.
Fired, and then you get settlement.
That just doesn't happen most of the time. I think, especially like PUA, red pill guys live in this delusional world where like every guy's getting false sex claims, every creepy boss or pervert is getting fired.
No, I don't believe
Everyone,
that.
yeah, this happens like 1.0001% of the time. Like it's very, very rare that somebody actually gets caught or called out on this. Because usually,
True, because then that woman's going to feel like they're threatened in their position. They could lose the case. Like a lot of times, if there's a guy acting like this and they're a manager, that's like top down. It's going to continue. Like, look at the whole Blizzard thing. For how many, like 10 years, they got away with sexually harassing women. One woman killed herself because she like dated the manager and then he leaked photos. Like they didn't care for 10 years, and then it didn't go off until until people stopped liking Activision Blizzard for making bad games, and then the reports started to take off of like, wow, well now that they're making shitty games, these people suck. Meanwhile, League of Legends had similar accusations of like being sexist to women, and since people still consider the game decent, nobody really cares. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's not really happening to the same degree. Like it's like the shit's not coming out. I don't know what to tell you. You know.
when these guys are propositioning, you don't even, they're not really even being 100% forward with it, right? So you're not going to get them on anything, right?
Actually, 8% of the U.S. population claims they've been falsely accused.
That's okay.
Well, maybe for sure. I've been falsely accused too. It's more about like false accusations happen. Why did she mention that? Like, what did he say?
Pervert is getting fired.
No, I don't believe
Everyone,
that.
yeah, this happens like 1.0001% of the time. Like, it's very, very rare that somebody actually gets caught or called out on this. Because usually when these guys are propositioning, you don't even, they're not really even being 100% forward with it, right? So you're not going to get them on anything, right?
Actually, 8% of the U.S. population claims they've been falsely accused.
Let me see. I'm curious about that. 8%. Okay, so this is falsely accused of domestic violence. Studies estimate that 4 to 6% of people incarcerated in the U.S. prisons are actually innocent. I don't know what she's talking about where she says 8%. I don't know what study she's coming from. Like, I've been falsely accused before. Yeah, it's domestic violence. So A recent national survey, 8% of Americans report being falsely accused of domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, or other forms of abuse. So this is overall abuse. So maybe that's true. Now, these are people saying that they're innocent, that were apparently charged with abuse. So first of all, a lot of people who do bad things will say that they didn't. Let's keep that in mind. But like, yeah, I mean, there people will falsely accuse. That doesn't necessarily mean that like they're going to do anything about it. Like I said, like I tell the story every once in a while where there was this girl where I went on we were just hooking up and she was cool. And then at one point I was talking to her on like OkCupid or something. I started talking to her friend on OkCupid and she's like, please don't sleep with my friend. A lot of the guys, because no, the friend was a little more attractive than her. And I'm not trying to shit on her or anything. And so I was like, yeah, no problem. And then I did sleep with her friend. And then afterwards, she's on the phone texting her friend, like, oh, he raped me, blah, blah, blah. And the friend's laughing and saying, like, she says this every single time, like, one of the guys tries to sleep with me instead of her. And then we have sex. Right. So I'm a fuckboy scumbag. I feel bad. But I was, like, falsely accused, too. But these are also, in the context of this, is what she's referencing, is people that apparently have been, like, convicted for some kind of an issue, and they're like, I didn't do it, which might be true, but I'm not sure I believe that all of the people who got charged with abuse are telling the truth. I don't think I'm misrepresenting this. But this is a survey, or maybe it's just a national survey. I don't really know, but like, it seems to be people who got like charged in some capacity. So, okay.
That's okay. But with that poll, was that poll falsely accused to the police, or was that poll like my friend told another friend that somebody like raped me?
It's probably the latter.
It was absolutely the latter, because 8% of false rape allegations to the police, everybody would be talking about it. I know that's not true.
Yeah, I agree with you on the false rape accusations. You're as likely to get convicted as you are to get struck by lightning. I've read that stat.
Huh. So again, you disagree with Pearl on the fundamental situation that women have it easier than men. Here's my perspective. Argue, counter, back, push back. I always ask this question. I said, who has it harder out there, men or women?
Who cares? I hate the question. It's not a productive question to ask who has had it harder, men or women. It's one of the most frustrating things that we talk about because it doesn't matter. There are issues back and forth of men and women having problems. And what we end up doing is we gridlock on who has it harder rather than talk about what is hard. That's the problem. We don't talk about it enough. We continuously get locked in of like, well, women have it harder. Well, men have it harder. Well, it's okay. What's the particular issue? And let's just solve it. Who cares who has it harder? I think women have it harder. But you know what? That's my anecdotal experience. But I know that there are men's issues and women's issues. So who really cares? It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Let's just talk about the real shit. What's hard? My penis. Boom. We got it. Okay?
And constantly I hear, well, men have it harder, bro. We got to dig the ditches. We got to have the tough jobs. We're the one that got to pay the bills. Men have it harder. And I said, little food for thought. Here's why I think women have it harder in today's society. I want to open it up to you guys.
Okay.
As a man, I'm all about clarity. As a man, it might be hard to make money, to be fit, to learn game, to pick up chicks, to be successful. It might be hard, but at least you.
It's true. Like one of the things, like men are expected to provide more. That's the difficulty of men. Men are also the ones that have to approach women, right? Like it makes it a little bit difficult when you're the one that has to go up to women and be like, "Hey, you want to go on a date?" Like it can be frustrating for sure.
Know the pattern for success. At least there's a blueprint. Here's what you need to do. Put a fucking nice suit on or some nice sweatpants for destiny. Look good. Get your ass out there. Meet people. Succeed. Make money. The world's your oyster. Now, what's your advice to women? Is it get out there, get a career, get a job, kill it?
Yeah, that's my general advice to everybody.
Maybe. Or is it be a good wife, be submissive, don't be a fucking bitch, like don't go on OnlyFans, be a good housewife, stay in the kitchen, be a traditional woman? Which one is it? Because it's totally polarizing opposite advice for women. So again, I'm all about clarity. It's very easy for me to look in the camera, talk to you guys out there and be like, you're too fat, you're too lazy, stop smoking weed, stop watching porn, get your ass out there, work, do your thing.
God, bro. Why could he fucking call me out like that, dude?
You'll find success. Done. Blueprint. As a woman, what do you say to a woman? Go get a job, go to college, be a boss babe. Now you're single and lonely at 40. Hey, don't get a job, you know, get yourself a husband, let the man lead, you be the follower. It's like now you're divorced at 40 because you're in a sexless marriage. So it is very hard for a woman.
Yeah, fair. Like you don't have any of the power, so you might be you're much more open to being abused if you have that kind of relationship. It doesn't mean that you can't have it, but it's good to have the option to be able to get a job, you know?
Woman. So my argument is it's actually a lot harder for a woman to decide what to do. What's your argument for that, Pearl?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what outcome you want. So, I mean, I think you make different choices based on the outcome you want.
Okay.
Personally, I'd be like, hey, it's hard to be a woman because rape, you know, happens more with women, obviously. These are more where I go to. In society, you will be more discouraged to lean away from jobs that pay a little bit better. Generally speaking, you might have an issue with the way that men perceive you in a male-dominated sphere, where they may not respect you just because you're a woman. Stuff like that. Just more social factors. You know what I mean? Like Destiny was saying before, you might actually get job promotions, but it might not be based on merit. It might just be based on your big fat boobies. So there are some struggles, right? There's struggles.
So how do you know? But like this goes back to my college thing: is how do you know what your outcome you want when you're 16, 17, 18 years old? Very hard to do.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a challenge that women have. I agree with you.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I don't like the saying like one is harder or one is easier. I think that women have very unique challenges they face. I think men have unique challenges they face. I don't know if I would ever say that one is harder or one is easier. Like if you are a pretty woman, you can get your feet in the door in a lot of different ways that men can't.
But then you get sexually harassed.
But then there's the trade-off is that everybody's trying to f you, right? That's a pro. Everybody's trying to f you, but it's also a big con that everybody's trying to f you. I think of all like the archetypes of women that I've met in my life, I feel like really hard-working but very pretty women have it probably the worst because they're constantly gaslighting themselves into having no idea if they're actually achieving or being successful, or if everybody's just like basically giving them hand.
So like I said before, I apparently muted myself before. What I was trying to say is I don't agree that they have it the worst. I think like ugly people have it the worst. But I definitely agree with that being a struggle. I'm not going to go off on the rant that I went on. Muted. I feel so silly.
And like living in that kind of like duality is a very, very confusing place to be. Like as a man, like if I'm getting credit for something, as much as I like to believe it, it's not because some woman wants to f me.
No,
it's because I'm actually succeeding somewhere, right?
They all want you, bro.
Yeah.
The only reason I have you on the show is because we're all trying to.
But for like a woman, you legitimately have no f***ing idea. Like, am I?
Well, also usually men are in the positions of power, so unless the men want to fuck you, which might be true. I feel like all men want to fuck me.
Performing well, my boss gave me a lot of compliments, my coworkers seem to like me. Am I getting a leg up everywhere? Because you do get a lot of help. If you're a woman in computer science, you're the only woman in the class. Well, at least for white women, you're getting a lot of help in that class compared to anybody else.
Let me recap what you just said, bro, because that's actually very powerful. If you're a hardworking, attractive woman, then what?
Yeah, he's saying if you're a hardworking, attractive woman, you're not going to know if you're succeeding because you're hardworking or if it's because you're attractive. That's basically the point that he's just trying to make.
You never know, like, are you successful on your own merits, or is everybody around you just gaslighting you into thinking that while they're trying to
I think a woman would know. A woman, you would know, like, oh, I really put in work, like I
don't think so. I think somebody might think that. They'd be like, no, it's because I'm attractive. Or no, they'd be like, oh, it's because I work really hard. But you wouldn't really know. You might not. But to her point, like it's in ignorance is bliss. So the women may not even realize that it's happening. So like maybe that's her point. I don't know.
I achieved this recognition because this work it's phenomenal. Versus like you can tell by how they address you, how they speak with you. Because
well, if you're getting treated really well your whole life because you've always been like a cute girl, then you're not going to know based on the way people address you.
I do agree with you. You're in a workplace, and there are men who want that intention.
But the men aren't going to be like, hey, I want to fuck you. They're going to stroke your ego,
But as a woman, you can approach that situation knowing that that's their intention. So I think as a woman, like, you can determine, like, am I getting this credible, am I getting credit based on my work, or am I getting credit based on my looks? Like, as a woman who is attractive, like, you can tell. Like, you can tell when a man's flirting with you. You can tell when a man wants something from you. You can see that.
I think I would agree with you for the most part, but I think there's two things. One, I think every attractive woman goes through a point in her life where she realizes, like, fuck, a lot of this has come from my looks. I think that comes a little bit later than, at least as a guy, we would assume.
Right.
And then two, I think that it gets really hard around like edge cases where you're like trailblazing, right? If you're like in a sales department and you've got like fucking numbers, right? And you can see like, obviously I'm outperforming, that's fine. But if you're working in like entertainment, or if you can reach out to like CEOs of companies and they're calling you back, or if you're getting like invited to podcasts or whatever, there's always this like whatever. And I think a lot of guys
who's breathing so heavily into the fucking microphone
are really good at disguising their intentions, where a guy can treat you in the most respectful manner possible until you're traveling to some convention in the same place somewhere, and then he tries to get you drunk and rape you. I think that it's really difficult sometimes to feel out like the fuzzy edge cases. If there's guys that are like blatantly sucking up to you, can tell. But I think it's just a weird thing for women to always have that in the back of our head, whereas for guys, there's not a time in our lives.
You can make that argument for a really
though.
successful guy. That you never know if the girl's into him for him or his money.
Well, yeah, for sure. That's definitely true. I think that's a struggle for like any successful person in general, but I'll say mostly men that have like a lot of money is like it's very difficult to build like meaningful relationships. Well, in general, whether you're a guy or a girl. I just think maybe it's more difficult for a guy because women tend to be more attracted to money, fame, power. I don't think men are as attracted to that in women, but for sure, definitely true. Yeah.
Very good point.
That is true.
But that's why like there's different issues for different people, and some of them are based on their sex, some of them are not, or their gender, or whatever you want to call it.
Very good point. Go deeper.
I think it's better for women to hide
for a
that.
guy,
if you're
the
a guy,
more
would be-
successful you are, you're like, does she love me for me, or the fact that I make $1 million a
Yes.
year?
This is the mantra I go by. I sing it to myself every day. She likes me for me, not because Oh, my voice is so terrible today. Don't worry, guys. I'll be back later.
That's something
And you know
that's a
who's
very
even
good point.
You know who's even better at disguising their
Is that Hootie and the Blowfish? I don't remember.
intentions than men? Women are. Women
Yes.
are much better at playing
I
the
agree with
game.
that. I agree with you.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Go ahead, Alex.
Also-
I don't. Maybe. I mean, okay.
We don't
Go
talk,
deeper,
I want
buddy.
to talk about the women that flirt with their bosses to get ahead too.
She's not wrong about that. She's not wrong about that. I know people are going to say she's victim blaming. She's not necessarily wrong. There are women who will gladly use their assets to try to get ahead in a company or try to give ahead. I don't know what percentage, but that part is definitely true. But the problem is that when you have a sphere that normalizes getting ahead, utilizing your assets, it creates an environment where it's expected of everybody. And since women are so like, which would disproportionately negatively impact women, and like that's the bigger issue with that.
Yeah.
Of course.
So a lot of times, like these girls will flirt with their bosses and then play victim later.
Yeah.
I don't know about a lot of these times. I feel like the women who are willing to like utilize their body for that, they're probably not like going out of their way to like try to out their bosses after. They probably have a pretty comfortable situation where they have a man in power who's doing whatever for them because they're sleeping together. But okay.
Well,
Like-
fundamentally agree on that. But Alex, I want to kind of say where you were at. You're saying, all right, cool, we're shitting on guys and being kind of shady or whatever. But holy shit, some of
women
these
can be
girls.
just as shady when they're messing with a successful guy, especially in Miami. And a lot of these rich guys, they get completely screwed. They are like, they get drained for all their money because they the wrong girl and then she took pretty much everything.
Probably not happening that much. These guys in Miami are getting drained by. I don't care about anybody in Miami. I also don't care about rich men or women. I don't give a shit about rich people, to be absolutely honest with you. If a guy in Miami gets drained of all their money, that's the fucking slut capital of the world where women are going there for sexual and like sugar baby situations. If a guy gets conned when it's very explicitly clear that that's happening, okay. I just doubt it's happening so heavily and consistently that it's a massive problem for these men. I don't feel bad for the rich guy. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Sign up, get a prenup, or don't get married. I mean, like, I don't feel like that's ever happening in any real capacity. Now, if you said that there are some men who might get bamboozled in a relationship, then yeah, that maybe there might be some guys who get screwed over. I don't know, but certainly I don't agree with this.
What have you seen? Have you seen an
I've
actual example?
had countless clients who've had that happen to them. Yeah, they got married early, then their business became successful, or they got married
Oh, well, that's totally different. They got married when they were early. Their business then became successful.
when their business was already successful too.
Okay, well, if that happens, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. If you got married to somebody and like that person, so if I'm with my wife now, okay, and I'm more successful now than I was before I met my wife. Absolutely, my wife has been a pretty significant part of that building of success. Just so you know. So if it didn't work out and my wife spent 10 years with me, which by the way, it will work out, but if it didn't work out and my wife spent 10 years with me supporting me, she deserves part of that money. We built it together. Her contributions as a woman have absolutely lended to me. Just because I would get divorced with her doesn't mean that she doesn't deserve any of like the money that I was able to generate, because it's a team. We both support each other in different ways, you know? So I don't care. Like, that sucks. You know, but that boils down to like, I don't know why their relationship ended. Maybe the guy made more money and decided he could get a better woman. Maybe that's why it ended. Or maybe the girl decided she didn't like that he was rich. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? It's in my opinion, it could be wrong. It's more likely that guy got successful or whatever and then like decided to like abandon her in some capacity because he's like, I don't need her anymore, you know, than the opposite. But okay.
The wrong kind of girl, right? So screening is important for both genders. I don't think it's only something that women have to screen with the people in their life. Men also have to screen.
sure.
Real
Everybody
quick,
needs to screen,
that could be
but-
possible. I would be curious what type of guy it is. Maybe because this might be my bubble because of the industry that I work in. But it's very easy for me to tell immediately how a girl feels about me if she's like fake or not. Because like you either know everything that I'm involved in or not. Like if a girl came up to me and she wanted to have like an in-depth conversation about like fiscal policy to try to fake me out for my money, I mean, I'll pay her off. Like, good job.
You don't think a women can tell when a guy's trying to f them? Most women can tell that too.
No, I think women can tell,
maybe.
but I'm just saying that like if a woman is trying to just like get in good with me because she thinks I've got
Right.
money, like I think I'm gonna be able to weed that out really fucking
Right,
fast.
but
Here's what I want to
fairly-
address. Here's what I want to address. If you're that dude and you're having success and you're doing things in your life and you're single and you're out there, what type of question should you ask these women to vet them? Because I totally agree with you. There's women out there that see a dollar sign on a guy and they're like, sugar daddy
for
just
sure.
walked in. Like there's a video of a girl that she's like, here's the best place to find a sugar daddy. You don't go to clubs. You don't go to strip clubs. You go to the nice restaurants because there they are. They're all
Hey,
together. I
smart
call it the
stuff.
sugar daddy watering hole. I've seen this girl do this video. And she's like, they're all at the nicest restaurants in Miami or New York or LA, whatever. And they're all eating together doing their thing. So you as a dating coach, what types of questions should a man ask women up front to kind of vet what the woman is looking for?
It's an interesting question. I don't know, because this is a scenario where the guy has a lot of money. So you're a dating coach for a rich guy, which seems unlikely. I don't know why you're a dating coach for a rich guy. I mean, the rich guy should be fine. I'm assuming he's not a dating coach for rich men. He's a dating coach for non-rich men, but I could be wrong. I guess I wouldn't be able to
I think
answer
it's less about questions and more about not leading with your money. So I like the Dave Chappelle joke where he says, like, when I have a date, I drive up in a dumpster truck. And then when the girl's like, oh, I don't want to date a dumpster driver, he's like, I'm Dave Chappelle, bitch. So I kind of like that, like, whole idea.
That's kind of funny. I understand, like, suppression of your lifestyle a little bit.
Idea that you're not taking the girl to a fancy restaurant. You're not leading with your money. You're not like...
Take her to half apps at Applebee's after 10 o'clock. It's pretty good. It's not bad.
Like showing off your car. You're keeping all that hidden until you get to know her. And if she legitimately fucks with you without seeing all your wealth, then it's like a nice cherry on the top. So that's what I would recommend.
I feel like that is a
money.
very idealistic, hey, I just happened to be Dave Chappelle answer, but that's not the reality because we live in Miami. You know what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, though. You live in Miami, but Yosemite. But that's the problem, is Miami is such like a niche area where it's basically prostitute central here, okay? The sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship bullshit. Move. I don't know what to tell you. I don't like like every woman you're going to interact with is going to be like is going to be after like your money in Miami. It's Miami. That's like the whole point.
Kind of got to give a little bit of crumbs, a little bit, and then you can kind of reveal. But okay, but even to get the date with the girl, like if you're just some dude at the bar, you're gonna have to say something to be like, well, I do this for work and I do this. Like I'm not saying you have to drive up in your Lamborghini and take her to home to your mansion, but you have to say like, well, yeah, I'm actually like, I own this bar, or like, yeah, my friends own this bar, or.
But yeah, it's a fine line because women again are attracted to success. So it doesn't mean like just because you have money and a woman might like money doesn't mean that like she's fake. That might be a factor for her. It's like, oh, I want to like that's nothing wrong with that. It's about like is she able to engage or build like a solid relationship with you, in general. You know what I mean? I guess that's where it would come from. I don't know. I don't really have to have that issue because I'm fucking married. So
yeah, like I'm an attorney or whatever. You're gonna have to give them some sort of game, but you do have to have a conversation, ask some questions. So I fully agree. Don't just let the money do the talking for you, but you do have to ask some questions.
I think you got to be cognizant.
What questions would you actually ask them?
I don't think there's a specific question I would ask the girl. I think I would just literally not do any of the stuff you're saying. I would not, if I was the owner of the bar, if I was just trying to get laid, yeah, sure, I would use it to my advantage. But if I was looking for a relationship, I would leave all that part out. I would not stress the fact that, I'm friends with the owner. I would leave all that out. I think you can also just have a good game and make the girl laugh and build a lot of sexual tension and lead with that instead of leading with possessions of money.
I think I actually just answered my own question. And I think that the answer is you need to ask them questions.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a specific question. I think I just answered what I was trying to ask you.
Yeah, sure.
If
that makes sense.
I see this problem, whether it's in business or whether it's in dating, guys just want to talk about themselves. And it's like, selling isn't telling, selling is asking.
This guy's interesting. I don't get the manosphere grift from this guy. He actually seems to care about what he's talking about. Because a lot of people in the manosphere just won't like. I think he's an honest guy here. I don't know who the fuck he is, but so far, like he doesn't seem to just be like shooting out a bunch of rhetoric. He's acknowledging like issues with women and shit. So I can respect that.
Okay, so hey, what are you doing here? Who are you here with? What are you guys looking to do tonight? And if you're getting, like, you'll get these answers. Yeah. We're just trying to find a dude with a yacht. If I had a fucking dollar for every time a girl said that, I'd be fucking gazillionaire. We're just trying to find a yacht to party on. It's like, cool, good luck with that yacht.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, at least they're being honest, I guess. That's Miami.
Like, hey, yeah, I'm just visiting like my grandma. I'm in town. It's like, cool, family values, got it. Boom, boom. Asking questions is the best thing you could do.
I guess you could ask.
I think you're saying there's no specific questions, which I think there are.
I changed my mind about actually. You could ask what type of guys does she usually date. You could ask about her
well, there we go,
relationships.
baby. You are changing your mind.
I thought this guy was a relationship coach. Okay, he's fleshing a lot out live.
Just questions.
You've changed my mind, yeah. You could ask that, yeah.
So what questions would you ask?
I would ask about her, like once we're already talking or vibing, I would ask about her last relationship. I'd be like, oh yeah, so what kind of guys are you usually into?
Yeah.
I would start off with
so do you like World of Warcraft? There's your question.
That she would tell me, like, oh, cool. So are you with a typical Miami sugar baby? And then see how she responds to that.
Yeah.
She'd be like, no, my last guy was broke. Okay, that's something. Or she's like, well, I do like millionaires. And that's a different story.
I think the question that we asked yesterday is actually probably one of the first questions you should ask a girl. How's your relationship with your dad?
Yeah.
I think
That's not a bad question. But girls, you should ask the same thing to the guys because we have a generation of fatherless children. So it's a good question to ask in general.
I don't think you're going to ask that on a first date. Don't get me wrong. I mean, on a first time, you're not going to go up to a girl in a bar and be like, hey, how you doing? Can I buy you a drink? How do you get along with your dad? But I think that is a very important question to ask a girl. Like, I don't think it's a very weird situation. I don't think it's a coincidence that Pearl is the girl she is and she has an amazing relationship with her father. I think that is the reason. That is the
She's
Pearl, the girl that she is. Would you agree or disagree?
No, I agree.
Maybe, I guess.
I look up
Give
to
a shout out to your dad right now.
Shout out,
Dad.
No, I look up to my dad a lot. Like a lot of
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the reasons like I do things that I do is like I was always trying to like make my dad proud. I don't know. It's just kind of lame, I know.
Daddy's girl.
But I don't know. Sorry.
Your dad's really
sorry.
That makes sense though. She's always trying to make her dad proud. Though she's always trying to make men happy instead of herself. It does read. It reads. It makes sense.
Okay. Well, like, dude, I'm gonna give you some credit here. I've seen your girl. She's cute. You get girls.
Okay.
Despite the pajamas, you get girls.
It's because of the pajamas.
It's because of the
I like to
pajamas.
stand out, you know?
That's
In a room
is that-
full of guys with suits.
Is that what they call you, the tripod? That's what they called you in high school, right?
Yeah, of
Respect.
Nice.
What was your game when you're talking to girls? Like, what kind of questions are you asking? What's your game, right? Like,
This is going to sound the most cuck shit in the world. I don't mean to make it sound that way. But yeah, just like treating people like normal human beings usually works. That thing that you just said about asking questions.
And he does have money. That does help as well.
yeah.
That's not
For me, when I didn't have, when I was still fucking around, this was what I would do. Here's the most realistic thing that will generally happen, because I've always been a big guy. But like, if you really want to try to get girls to have sex with, I'll give you the playbook. Okay, I used to go on Tinder. All right, you're gonna strike out 19 out of 20 times, maybe even more than that. You just like all the girls' pictures. Eventually you'll find a girl who'll match with you. Since it's Tinder, they're usually a little less attractive than you. Okay, you take them out. You talk to them like people. You take them out to Applebee's. You tell them you're not looking for anything too serious, but you're open to anything. Which is true. You take them out to Applebee's after 10, and which helped because I used to work till 10. So like it was like, oh, I work until 10. You want to go out after 10? Like I had the easiest. You riz them up a little bit, and then most of the time, like if the woman would go out with me on the date, like I had it already. You talk, and I'm like a pretty charming guy. I knew how to talk a little bit to get to know him and stuff, and then you end up usually fucking them on the first date, and then you date them for a couple months, and rinse and repeat. That's how I would operate with that. Yeah. Then I got lucky and I met my wife.
not even a good. It's a good pickup technique. That's a good conversational technique. Period.
That's just
right?
good for humans.
Yeah, if you're talking to people
Yes.
and you ask them questions
Yes.
and you refer back like jokingly to things they've said, like it creates in the other person's mind that you have a huge interest in that person.
Yeah.
Huge
It is
interest.
exceedingly rare that a guy or a girl on a date gets asked a lot of meaningful questions about who they are, where they come from, what they want to do, how they feel about things. If you can be the person to give somebody that conversation, it leaves them like, I'll have conversation, welcome back. The person doesn't know a fucking thing about me because they didn't say shit. I'm like, oh yeah, like I feel like a really good conversation last night. Like I remember that like a lot. So that's like a really good starting point, I think, is being
But
able to talk to somebody, connect to
I
somebody.
will say that you are smarter than most, and you do have a gift of gab. So you're
Gift
better
of
than most.
gab.
So you've got, like, someone said this the other day. They said, like women want a provider, a protector to be present, and then they said that the protecting thing. It might have even been you.
I think so.
It was,
I think
it was,
protecting
it
is
was
cope.
being a verbal protector,
Oh.
meaning like some girls want a guy who's a protector. You thinking, oh, he's going to protect you, but sometimes it's just a guy who's quick and sharp and that can defend his woman
That's true.
verbally.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I guess that makes sense. Sure. That's a nice point. You don't have to just be this physically strong, masculine guy. Sometimes you could, be somebody who protects in different ways. A lot of times, like, just having money is, like, considered, like, a protector.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like
Somebody
that's
just
you.
like somebody that's confident but not meek. I think confidence is always a good trait.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's confidence, really, more than anything else. That's fair. If you're fucking don't have confidence, then you're fricked, bro.
For
gotta
all men.
listen to 20
1000%
seconds.
agree.
For sure.
If you ask a girl, like, give me your top 3 qualities, you probably asked a girl this a million times.
It's got to be funny one, right? Yeah.
You're always going to get funny, smart, handsome,
Yeah.
attractive, good looking. There's like things that go down the list. Confidence is at the top 3 of
I'm done.
every woman's list. Have you not heard that a million
No,
times?
I agree with you.
Sure. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I
It's a
think
dating
confidence
expert.
it even bleeds into other things as well. Like the type of humor that you can employ sometimes will
Yeah.
come down to how confident you are about
That's
the person
true,
and everything
yeah.
too.
True. I'm very confident because most of my jokes are terrible. That's how you know that I have so much confidence. All right, that's video number 1. Let's do video number 2. This is Andrew Tate.
It's toxic masculinity these days.
Toxic
which is none other
masculinity.
than our friend Andrew Tate.
We're going to blame the
Ooh.
man for your poor decision. You picked to do it.
That's great that you feel that way, but it's still sex trafficking. Your personal feelings don't matter.
They weren't complaining about the
Got
money.
him.
But he was actively stealing from them.
Yeah, he admits
It's not
that.
actively-
He does admit
He
that.
literally said,
Yeah.
when you're filling out these dumb women's tax forms, you can lie to them about the tax forms and take 20, 40% off the top. He
That is
literally
where
said
I
that.
think you were right.
I'm not asking about what the punishment should be for the women. They've probably been punished enough. I imagine if they worked and had money stolen from them. What we're talking about was what Andrew Tate did, which is sex trafficking, right? They're probably going to make bad decisions.
Allegedly.
Why, but I'm saying, why is
Allegedly.
it-
That's what he's charged with. That's
why
what
is
he's
it-
charged
Allegedly.
Why
Let's
is
just
it
be
why
clear
is it
about
wrong
that.
if they
It's not
freely chose to do
proven.
it?
Why is it?
Sure, but it's alleged, but he did get arrested by the police. Again, after moving to Romania to escape the prevalent Me Too narrative, and so he can use his money to engage in government corruption, and he was still arrested. So, I'm thinking that maybe there's a little bit of maybe there's some credibility to it.
Wrong if I get somebody in a relationship with me and then I'm able to flip that into them working as a prostitute for me?
For some reason, I'm like obsessed with this straw man argument thing because you've used it a few times.
This is
Hear
literally what
me
he talks
out,
about.
bro. So there's this term like
hear it. Let's hear it.
toxic masculinity these days, which I think is just
True.
an
A
absurd
great term.
term. I
Describes
think
a
it's
lot
a
of
great
toxic
term.
masculine traits.
So
Yeah.
I don't think
Toxic masculinity exists, just not every. The problem is that toxic masculinity exists, but not every bit of masculinity is toxic. It's okay to be a strong man who doesn't cry all the time, but it's not okay to not let your emotions out in a healthy way. Some people might let their emotions out by crying. Sometimes I think that as a man, you should limit your crying a little bit, but there's a difference between, like, there are still, masculinity is still a good thing. Femininity is a good thing. These are very good qualities to have in different ways. But like toxic masculinity is when like you are so much of a man that you won't even like acknowledge your own emotions because you don't want to appear weak. That's an issue. You don't have to cry all over the internet, but you should be able to look for a partner who like lets you express yourself when you need to. Doesn't mean you need to be crying about everything, but like if your fucking dad passes away, or your mom, or even your dog, and you shed a tear, if the woman's like, ew, gross, like that's toxic. Maybe that's toxic femininity if the woman will leave you, where she is expecting such a masculine guy. That I don't know, maybe you call it that, but like, yeah, there is aspects of it.
I think there's just toxic people. I think there's toxic women that you should stay the hell away from.
True.
I think there's toxic men who are idiots and cavemen. You should stay away from them.
True.
I think it's an unfair label.
There are traits that are unique to men that get toxically exemplified now.
Such as?
Like the ability to never show any emotion ever and to be a stoic person that keeps it all inside and like never.
There's a lot of benefits.
And there are some times where like you need to be stoic and keep that emotion inside. I'll give you an example of like when my mother, my mother is basically a man. She raised a very masculine woman. I love my mother. When my uncle passed away, I talk about this a lot. My uncle's like a father to me. My mother didn't cry for probably a couple days. And because what happened is I got incredibly upset. My aunt, my uncle's wife got incredibly upset. So my mother, that was her brother, she didn't allow herself to be upset. And that's generally, I think, how a lot of relationships work, is where there's like, when my wife and I, there's never a time where both of us are like not able to handle a situation. One of us is being stoic for the other person based on who is more upset, because somebody needs to manage the situation. And sometimes somebody needs to break down. Like if, my wife needs to break down, I will step up and I'll be stoic. It doesn't happen as much, but there's times where like I'll break down and my wife needs to be stoic, right? These are necessary. Stoicism is good, but it doesn't mean that you don't ever express it. I remember, I have to call my mother today. Fuck, I keep forgetting. It reminded me. Anyway, I'm going to call her after the stream. If you're watching, make me call my mother after the stream. I keep forgetting to call her. Okay? However, afterwards, my mother did cry. Like, I talked to her about it, and then she's like, yeah, I was like, how are you doing? Because you never were upset. You weren't showing it. She's like, no, like I was crying last night, like in my bedroom and stuff. And this was a long time ago. It's okay to be stoic. It's just like there's a time and a place. You have to be able to vent out your shit. And of course, you talk to her and her friends. She's not gonna talk to me. I'm her son. Of course, my mother's not gonna talk to me about like when she's like super in depth, when she's like really crying and stuff. But like that's the thing. It can be good to be stoic. You don't want to have a meltdown in like a crisis situation, but you need to be able to process it. So stoicism is a good thing, but you have to give yourself an opportunity to also not be stoic and just like break down. Like, and just be upset. Not necessarily break down, but you understand what I'm saying, right?
Fits to being a stoic, though.
Not a healthy stoic that processes and doesn't repress everything.
Yes.
But like you should be able to have I think that not being able to have a conversation relating to your emotions, I think, is a huge sign of insecurity and weakness.
Yeah, but there's a difference between having emotions and being a human and being an emotional man. There's a big difference.
Is like, you guys don't believe. Why do you bring this up? Like you will, okay, every time, okay, you might not believe this. I'll give you a little bit of credit, okay? And I don't think Alex does. I don't know about you. Okay, people will do this shit where they'll be like, oh no, when we say like don't be overly emotional, what we mean is like don't cry all the time and blah, 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 blah. If that's all you were saying, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people here are like, if you ever show any vulnerability to your woman ever, she'll leave you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there are people, Fresh and Fit says that. That's insane. They're like, and that shows insecurity. The reality is bad people are going to hurt you, and you're going to find bad people. If you found your relationship off the bat, like, God bless you, I don't know how you did it, but you're going to date a lot, and there are going to be people who try to hurt you, whether they're men or they're women. You're going to tell them stuff that in confidence, and you're going to confide in them, and then at some point they might get upset with you, and they might use that against you and hurt you, and that sucks. But if you decide to generalize and say all men or all women are just like this, that's you coping. You need to be able to confide in your partner. I confide in my wife. If I didn't have my wife, I would be miserable. I don't know what else to say. Like, you need to be able to confide in her. She is available for me to confide in whenever I need her to, and she doesn't respect me less, and I'm there for her to confide in as well. Like, we have a very nice mutual relationship. But if you get hurt by a woman and you're like, oh well, all women, I can't confide in women because they're just going to hurt you. You're coping. you have like, yeah, you have a problem. You have like an issue. You have like an insecurity. You're too afraid to express yourself because a singular woman hurt your feelings, and now you're going to act like all women are just as bad. I mean, that's just silly. That's silly groosery at that point.
It's not, but it's not like
It's true what?
Like Freshman Fit says that all the time.
Yeah, and that Hamas guy
Yeah,
who wears the
Hamza.
robes all the time,
Yeah,
whatever the fuck. Yeah.
Yeah,
Does he say that as well? Wow, what a silly goose.
I don't know who it says what, but the message that I've generally understood is that it's kind of like you just don't know. Every woman's different, and how much emotion that she's willing to like put, like I want to say
Sure.
put up with differs
Sure.
on the women. So a lot of guys just say it's easier just to not.
That's dumb. That's lazy. Like, yeah, different women will put up with different things. Absolutely. That's what it's called. Like, that's why you date, to find compatibility. Like, you're not looking for every woman, okay? You're looking for, is that Aretha Franklin? I was going to make a joke, but I forgot. Anyway, you're not looking for every woman. You're looking for the woman that's right for you, or the person, but in this case, the woman that's right for you. So you need to show your vulnerability to the degree that you need to show, and then you need to find a woman or a person that will be willing to put up with that. But just shutting down completely, again, is silly goosery.
I think Destiny actually makes a very valid point here, to be honest with you. There's a fine line. So I like always using a 1 through 10 scale, right? 10 is being like showing no emotion whatsoever. I will never be vulnerable with my girl. And 1 is being a crying f***ing baby. I don't think you should be either. I think you should find a f***ing balance. I think appropriate balance is probably being an 8. Being a man, but also having some emotion.
Sure.
Do you understand? Do you see what I'm saying?
And like, I tend to agree with that more. Generally speaking, like, it's more acceptable for women to show emotion. If you have a babbling woman that's crying over everything, like, obviously that's a problem and people aren't going to be attracted to her. But I think it's generally a little more acceptable for women to be crying a little more. You know, estrogen produces tears sometimes, you know what I mean? So I'm okay with that. Like, my wife obviously cries a little more than me, but it's like she's not like a weak person or anything, you know what I mean? But overall, you still need to learn to express your emotions.
Here?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like the number is meaningless. That's going to be different things for different people. Like an 8 for some person might be like, the only time I'm going to cry is if both my parents die within 12 hours of each other, right? Or some people might be like an 8 is like, I had a bad day, I'm going to bed a little bit. Like, it just
I
depends.
actually think a
know-
1 through 10 is very fair.
All I know is the men that I respect the most in my life, I've barely ever seen cry.
Okay.
So, but
I think that
Yeah, that's the woman you are. That's cool.
a healthier engagement with the question is,
So if you're someone that wants to date Pearl, you can't cry. Like, that's fine. I personally would say to a woman, if you're that extreme where like you don't respect men that have cried at all, that you might want to reevaluate yourself, because you're going to end up attracting men who don't have the ability to express their emotions and might end up beating you relentlessly. Not always. I'm just saying that it could happen. Okay, so maybe be a little bit more forgiving to a guy. Let them cry a little bit. Okay, like, it's okay. And I very rarely cry. It's not even about crying. Like, I don't know why we go to this extreme. Sometimes it's just talking about having a bad fucking day. You know what I mean? Talk about how something bothered you today. Or even just how something bothered you that your partner said. This is where it gets more practical. Like, there's times where, like, you're talking to your partner and they might say something that bothers you, but they don't mean it. And you're like, yo, like, that upset me. That's the most applicable... That's the most basic application of this, is like, you're talking to somebody and they say something that you don't like, and you're able to be like, yeah, I don't like that. I didn't like that you said that. That bothered me. And a lot of times I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that upset you. I'm sorry. Like, that's where it comes more, like, your expression of emotion becomes much more practical. It's not necessarily crying. It's more about just being able to effectively communicate yourself to somebody when they say something that bothers you.
I'm going to go back to the thing we said before. I think the confidence is the thing that underpins all of it, right? If I'm upset and you see me upset, and I'm not playing League of Legends, it's because some serious shit happened,
Okay.
right? It's supposed to be like the archetype of like, dad is crying. That means something really bad happened.
I
There's some crazy
agree.
shit happened, right?
I agree.
So like, yeah, like I think it's okay to get emotional over things, but as long as it's something like serious happened. And I think it's better to be able to show that and share that with your partner than to like keep it all bottled up. But like, if you come home and you're like crying because you had like a bad interaction with a customer, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
But again, the problem there isn't whether you're emotional or too emotional. It's like, it's a lack of like confidence that is like showing like an emotional instability, I think, which is the problem.
I think it's ultimately, because we talked about the people that are saying they should never cry, should never do anything like that. I think it's just a backlash to basically what's been happening in society, this feminization of men, and men aren't being real men anymore. There is stats out there that show like how men were more manly, World War II, serving your country.
Yeah, well, I don't really want World War II to come back. Again, I would, if you want to talk about any type of feminizing of men, let's really focus on the absence of fathers in the household. Because yes, there are some fathers who want to be really good dads that get fucked because, like, you know, they'll lose custody because the mothers tend to get like custody. They tend to get more favored in custody, and I understand that that could be a struggle. But the reason is because most men don't want to take care of their kids. So like those really good fathers that get screwed over, it's because of a lot of the men that don't give a fuck about their kid. They'll like leave the mother and not give a fuck. You want to talk about the feminizing of men? It's because we have weak absent or weak father figures in people's lives. So let's talk about that as number one. Number two, the only time I've talked about, or I've heard people talk about the feminization of men is almost always, this narrative really started with gay men or LGBTQ men, where it's like, oh, there's a conspiracy to make like a men gay and feminize them, and it's just annoying and it's dumb. That's where a lot of it comes from. So
versus men out there, it's like there's guys that, you know, grandpa died or like almost gave his life up in World War II, and you're crying over a video game because you got shot and killed. But
okay,
there is this like coddling of young men today, where it's like,
because we don't have, their fathers aren't there. That's why young men are being coddled, because they only have their mother to fucking be there for them. And then their mother literally does everything for them. To the point when they look for a relationship, they can't even wipe their fucking asshole. Right? This is the problem. Like, you need a strong masculine and feminine figure in your life. Your father is usually going to be the masculine one, and your mother's going to be the feminine one. The father needs to kind of like show you toughness and break you down in a positive way, is like a bringing out a muscle. Whereas like the mom is supposed to like build them back up and like build them up in that capacity. When you only have the feminine perspective, constantly coddling and giving like these kids, whether they're guys or girls, shit, they turn into entitled little fucking pieces of shit. That's literally what happens. And I think not having a father, is almost like worse for men, because like women are different. A lot of women will have like fights with their mothers in weird ways, but like boys will get fucking relentlessly coddled by their mothers. I mean, it's the truth. You have so many guys don't know how to fucking like, are you doing your own laundry? Are you fucking showering correctly? Are you washing your legs? You know what I mean? I don't know, man. That's where the bigger issue comes from. It's just where the fuck are the dads?
Or man up. They used to be like, yo, man up. Now that's like, you get in trouble.
Yeah, but you
We're
can't-
telling
I
someone to
can't- you can't
man
take
up.
a-
I just think as women, like, we're looking for someone that stays strong when shit hits the fan.
Exactly.
And it's not
Sure.
to say that you can never, ever show any ounce of emotion, but I just think, in general, it's better to err on the side of caution.
I think we have to recognize that where we were before was unacceptable. Where we were 20 years ago
That's
was
fair.
not acceptable. Where men are killing themselves at what, 3, 4, 5 times the rate of women? Where men are too scared to seek help for like.
Well, okay, let's be explicitly clear about this, because people always bring this up and they're like, yeah, like one of the biggest issues with men is that they, they're taking their own lives at like disproportionately higher rates than women. If you look at the statistics, women actually attempt a lot more than men. Men just end up actually going through with it. And the reason is because men are better at everything. Hope. No, the reason is because men tend to use like guns and women tend to use like pills. So that's really what it comes down to.
Psychiatric problems, where men leave the military and they
Has
go.
the suicide rate gone down since? I don't actually know. Has it gone down since like
It's gone down
100
bit,
years
but still
ago?
Yeah, I think it's still higher for men. But I'm just
No,
saying,
no,
like,
I'm
the
saying,
highest
no,
in
I
the
meant
80s.
like, so if like, let's say 1
70s.
out of every 100 men committed suicide 100 years ago, is it 2 today? Is it 0.5 today?
It's
I
way
just,
more
I
than
just
it
don't
was
know.
100 years ago.
There's
So
more
why
men
is that?
committing suicide
Why
today.
are men struggling and committing
Oh.
suicide more than ever now? Is that what
So-
you're saying?
Are they?
No, I'm asking the question. I
No,
don't
but he
actually
said,
know.
are those the stats?
I believe it. I looked at this at what debate I did. I think it was like in the 70s. It was like we hit a crescendo with like the most amount of male suicides, and then it's gone down a little bit, but now it's rising again.
So is that, by the way, is there, we don't have the answers here, but is it younger men?
no, I
I
think
didn't
it's
look- I didn't
normally
look at the ages.
it's people always think it's teens that are killing themselves, but I don't think that's the
I
case.
guess
The biggest
45?
the bracket
Yeah,
is around 45.
yeah.
I think it's when people are leaving, you get kind of lonely, you get disconnected from the world, and then you're kind of like.
So
down that path.
I
Yeah, it's just a skill issue is what it comes down to.
have 3 things that are coming to mind here.
Wait, before you
Yeah.
three things, I just want to say before
Yeah.
that, like, if we're gonna do like male advice or male empowerment, like, I don't even use the term because I know it triggers the out of everybody, but like we have to be able to talk about some concepts related to toxic masculinity that keep men down, and one of those is the inability to process emotions. I'm not saying you got to go around and be like, and I admit,
Can I have an example of what that means?
as in like when you like, here's an example, okay? Men cannot have conversations about their emotions ever, okay? If a girl goes out with a guy and she comes back and she's talking to her friends, right? Oh my God, I met this guy, he was super cool, he's a blah, blah, blah. Like, a guy will go out, meet the woman.
So I'm trying to figure this out. It looks like, okay. It looks like what he had said was basically true, where it kind of like goes up. I don't remember when he said this is the 1990s, and then it's been going down, but it's been going back up. But this is just raw numbers. This is not historically. This is like raw numbers. I don't know. What does this chart represent? I'm so confused. There's two chart. One is men and one is women. They're like, I don't know if it represents like the percentage of the population. Like if it's, I don't know if this is like keeping in line with the population percentage necessarily. That's the only issue that I'm having. But okay.
Woman of his dreams. Go home to his friends. Everybody's like, oh, how was it? And the guy's like, cool. And that's all he says, ever,
True.
right? This is why, like,
Is there something wrong with that?
Yes.
Oh, why?
It's so toxic because men friendships suck. We get so little out of friendships, and I think it's one of the reasons why men are so desperate for relationships.
The men's friendships are amazing. Okay, that's the only place as a man that you can be comfortably racist, sexist, and homophobic is with your friends. It doesn't matter what race they are. It's all, everything goes. That is the most incredible part about male. Nah, but you can't really express yourself too much.
With women, and I think it also ties into. I think it ties into some.
Yeah, and that's also another factor. Like, why are they? Why is the suicidality going up? Is it because of like? It probably is because of it's harder and harder to just be a person nowadays financially because of like all like our wealth gap.
Many other things.
It really needs to start focusing on that more than anything else. So, big factor, especially since I would say it hurts men more than women, especially since men are expected to provide more.
One of the reasons why I hear women will complain that when they go on first dates with guys, they feel like they're their therapist or their moms. And I think oftentimes because guys have nobody that they talk to in their lives about anything. I think it's why the
What
breakups.
guys are they dating?
No,
This is so common. This is so
This is
common.
really
Of course,
common.
another big reason is why, like, whenever you see like breakups happen, I've heard a lot of Red Pill guys says women always get so much credit when there's a breakup, and guys always get shit on. Like they're always blamed. If there's like cheating going on, women get so much more leeway than men. It's because when women have problems in their relationships, they're telling all their girlfriends about it. Like, oh, my boyfriend does this, my husband does this, and all like it. So when something happens, yeah, they're way more ready to like side with their girlfriend.
Oh, okay. That actually kind of makes sense. Like, okay, so if a woman, I don't know if this is true, but I guess the logic makes sense. So what he's saying is that like if a woman cheats in a relationship, their friends are more open to accepting it, and that's because the woman's been going around telling her friends, well, I'm cheating because he doesn't treat me like this or this or this or this, whereas a man is suppressing that, and so their friends aren't as ready to accept them, I guess. Interesting. Okay.
For guys, again, like the woman might, be like cutting his tires every day before he goes to work, and guys are like, oh, how's everything going at home? You're like, it's okay, and that's like all they say. Like our relationships are really, really, really bad. The way we communicate with each other.
It's interesting though. I'm trying to think about it. I don't know, because I've expressed like when I'm having rough times in my relationship to some of my friends. So I don't know if I'm like the most accurate person, but I could see fundamentally that a woman having a failure of a man not being considered as a woman's issue. It's the man's problem. But a man having a failure as a woman is considered a man's problem because he's not keeping her in line. So historically, I think that might make sense. Or like traditionally. Interesting.
It's really, really, really bad.
But you can express yourself to your friends in your friend group. The only thing that you have to do that's different as a man than a woman is you just have to say no homo afterwards. Ah, bro, I'm really upset. No homo. Oh man, you're looking really good today. No homo. Oh man, I don't know. That's all you have to say.
Muscle Build super chatted $4.99.
Yeah,
I don't really understand the popularity around male and female discourse lately.
Yeah.
I wonder why it's such a hot topic at the moment.
I don't know. I think it's always been on TikTok of just like a bunch of boys and girls shitting and coming and farting all over each other. It'll probably go away. But here's what we were saying before. This is the person who donated the $5 for me. Thank you so much. Muscle Build. So if I wanted to say that like this guy had a really nice physique, what I would say is like we wait till we get to the point because this is a meme. It'd say, "Wow, you have a really nice physique. No homo," and it's not that way. I'm protected. It can't be misconstrued as gay. That's all you have to do as a man. That's all you have to do. It's true. It's true.
I'll use our friend Dave Chappelle as an example here of a story that he told, and I'll give you my feedback.
Okay.
He says that like basically men are just like black and white, more rational. Women are so emotional.
Maybe. I think men and women think differently, and I think it's interesting to kind of understand that in a more nuanced way than like men are rational and shame women. Men are very rational. Men are also not emotionally intelligent. There's like an issue with the way that things are perceived. Men are very direct. Like there are pros and cons to a lot of these different things. Women tend to be more like attuned to emotions. Men aren't. So when we say men are rational, it's not necessarily true rationality because people aren't just rational creatures. We're human creatures, right? Like if I said we had to kill 5,000 people tomorrow to save the world, we would have a really tough time dealing with that. as men and women, because that's a really difficult decision, because we're not fully rational. We're also human and we're emotional, and we have there's more nuance going on. We need a balance of that rationale and that emotional ness, which is why men and women are so good together. Okay, obviously, I'm not, gay people are fine. I'm just making general statements,
Where it's like he did this a whole big stand up. It's like, she's like, so what happened? I met Dave, went to the park, punched a guy in the face. That's it. I'm out. That's a man's story. Where the woman's story was like, well, you have to understand that I was on my period that day. And she said something really wrong to me. And then what happened is I was feeling a certain way.
What's interesting about that, though, is that like those are really uninteresting stories. Okay. I don't know. When I tell stories, they're a little bit more involved in that. A more compelling story is a story where you get a little more emotion attached behind it. So if there was some context there as to why you were so angry at the day, might make it more interesting or funny. But
what
okay.
happened was then Sheila walked in, and it's like, Jesus, it's so fucking. I just want to know what happened. So there's two conflicting ideologies and like how men and women operate. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and that's just how.
Dad super chatted $4.99. Why stress yourself out over people thinking you're gay?
Well, it was a joke. I never say no homo. I literally just express myself how I want. I don't have to care. But like, it's a little bit of a joke on men who will have to constantly say no homo. But men are also super gay with their friends all the time. So it might be considered necessary. Like there's a common game that men play. It's called see how far you can do gay stuff with your friends. It's the gay chicken, where you'll go to like touch them on the chest or something. You're just trying to make each other feel uncomfortable, and it just gets like really weird and gay. So that's probably where that comes from. But yeah,
men operate. So women, they're always going to be more emotional. It's not about the actual facts of the story. It's going to be how they felt and how you made them feel and whatever. Like, anyway, but as far as men go, I don't know. I can only say what I know. I have homies that I've been friends with forever. I could say everything I want to them up to an extent. Because as a man,
Maybe.
you can give your boys maybe 80 or 90% of the story, and there's maybe like 10% of it you'll leave out.
Well, I feel like that's just a people thing. So like I vent to people, and I'm sure my wife vents about me sometimes. It's normal. But you never give the full part of the story, because some of the story is just personal to you and your partner. I don't think that that's a male or a woman exclusive. There's just a boundary that even in private you need to know not to cross. I don't think that that's like a male or female exclusive thing, though.
Because you don't want to go, like you don't want to reveal too much to the dude. So I actually agree with what you're saying to an extent. Meaning, if I had an issue and I was some girl I was seeing, I'd be like, yeah, so we went on this date, whatever. And I would be like, we would have the surface level conversation just to get it off your chest. But maybe there's a little like, below the iceberg type of thing that you won't reveal. So maybe. I don't know if I buy the notion.
Part that matters.
Well, right.
The part that matters. Yeah, maybe.
But
I guess it depends on what that is.
By the motion that men have no friends and they have no one to talk to. I would highly encourage men to have friends that they should talk to.
But
100%.
It's not every man. There's some men who do. I do also have really good friends I can talk to. But there's a lot of dudes who, yeah, like Destiny is right. Like when they show up on a date, it is like a therapy session because they've been withholding their emotions for so long, and then there's just finally someone, and they spend 2 hours just like complaining to the girl. Yeah,
that's the worst thing a guy could ever do.
I know, but
is that you bottle up all your emotions, you don't talk to your boys, and you're gonna go fucking blow it on a date with a girl when you should be asking questions.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times when men are feeling very emotional, they'll just jerk off, and then they no longer like. That's pretty much what happens. That's like not even a real joke. Like men will just be like, I'm upset. Time to jerk off. It's kind of a real thing.
You moron! Shut up and ask questions. Now's not the time to be emotional on some girl you just met.
Right, but the reason is because he has no one he can share it with.
Ugh, find a friend, homie.
But part of the emotions is not just.
Yeah, I agree. Find a friend, but that's what it is. Is that people aren't necessarily encouraged to find friends.
Emotional.
As men, like it's like to find a friend that you can confide in. Like, oh, that makes it difficult when you're not like allowed to confide in anybody.
Like a woman and crying. Like there's also anger. That's an emotion that men
Sure.
tend to have as well. And if they don't know how to handle that and maintain that, then that leads to them lashing out.
That's true. I agree. Like, anger is an emotion, and we don't talk about it enough. It's allowed. It's okay. That's one of the problems I have with feminism. I say this like a lot, but is that they don't understand that like men get emotional all the time. It's a problem not just feminism, really. It's a problem in general, but men get emotional all the time too. They just usually express it in anger, and it's okay to be angry. I think feminism calls any male anger toxically masculine. Well, that's not true. The way you express it is toxically masculine. It's 100% okay to be angry. It's how you process it. If you get angry and you need to walk out of the room and be by yourself, that's a great way to process that. If you get angry and you need to jerk off, sure. If you get angry, you start screaming, do you have a problem? That's the toxically masculine part of it, right? You need to just properly manage your emotions.
Making decisions out of being at a high emotion and not knowing.
Yeah, true. My wife said there's no more friends anymore. It's just all open relationships. It's kind of true. That's kind of where we are at, huh?
how to control it. So I do think it is important that men do.
Like people, that's what I think. I think a lot of people are in like open relationships nowadays instead of having friends. Like they think that like they want to have sex with somebody instead of having, like, I don't know. It's weird because I feel like I was there for a while too, where it's like, oh, you found a friend you could also have sex with. You know, that's why it'd be cool if I was gay, but you know, hey, you know, whatever.
You learn how to master all of the emotions.
Unfortunately, I'm not gay, so it's unfortunate.
It's not just when you're sad or when you're happy, but also when you're angry, because a lot of times men will be in positions with high pressure. And if they don't know how to manage that emotional time, that they could turn into a completely different direction of where they were trying to go. So I think men expressing their emotion, there is a time and a place for it. Now, do I think they should be crying all the time? No, absolutely not. But I think there is strength in a man who knows how to handle all of his emotions.
Sure.
Because it's reliable. You know, as a woman, you're like, okay, he's upset. He knows how.
All right, this woman's talking too much. I'm here to listen to the men talk, please.
How to be upset and recover.
He's-
He's angry. He knows how to be angry and recover. So I think there is importance in men.
Nat, I have a question for you. I have a question for Nat, because
Yeah.
this is the second or third time you've addressed this exact same thing, and I think you're spot on. How are you so well versed at this exact topic about a man handling his emotions, not succumbing to being emotional, being almost stoic, playing it?
Okay, I don't know. Listen, take this with a grain of salt. But we're just talking about men and women, like, and their accolades based on whether their levels of attractiveness and how women like will get praised for being women. And I feel like that's happening here because I don't think that she said anything any more profound than like anybody else or any more agreeable. Like there's things that this guy agree with like Pearl on as well. But for some reason, he's like singling her out and being like, oh, I really got to say that you did such a good job today. Is that because he wants to fuck her? Does he fuck her? I don't know. Maybe I'm being the sexism, but you know, that's just my read, which could be completely wrong.
Cool. And if you know that if dad is crying, some shit has happened. Kind of you addressed. How are you so familiar with this?
Well, she didn't actually really say that though. She just agreed to Destiny saying that. So okay.
I mean, my dad, he grew up with all women in the house. So we had a lot of emotions he had to handle.
Yeah,
and not only was
true.
he handling
I feel
his own
bad for
emotions,
him.
but
I feel bad for that man because listen, women tend to also like they tend, there's like something where like women will adjust their periods to each other. So like they'll adjust their cycles based on hormones in the house. So if you got like 5 women in the house, they're all gonna get their period at the same fucking time. Miserable, bro. That sounds horrible. Oh my goodness.
he's also
Completely unbiased question for you. Why are you always right about everything? Oh, that's a good question. That's exactly what's happening here.
handling our emotions as well. So his reaction to our emotions, it also does teach a man how to handle emotions as well.
Oh my God, I just realized something. You have all sisters?
Yeah.
How many women are
Well,
in
we're
your house?
blended, but in the household,
How many
we had
women?
all women, and then our little dog Dante.
How many women?
3, 4. There's 3 girls and my mom, so 4 women, and then our dog. That's
Okay,
the boy.
gotcha. All right,
Okay,
forget
well,
about
that's
the dog, but shout
not
out.
a person, but okay.
Yeah. So it's your dad and all women in the household.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I asked you, how are you so familiar with this? Because you've seen your dad,
Yes.
who's a pretty solid dude. Shout out to Marvin. And
stoic.
he's just there being a logical actor, making money,
And you have a boyfriend.
successful guy, and he's just dealing with, I'm on my period, and he's just like, stay calm, brother.
Okay. I just want to be, I know it's like a joke, but that's not really how women are on their periods. I just feel like they need, like, let me tell you something. When my wife is on her period, you know, sometimes it gets a little emotional. I understand that. But like, I don't know.
Don't
whatever.
freak out.
It's okay.
Play fucking cool. Be a stoic.
It's just not the, I just wouldn't define it like that. It seems a little rude, but okay. Like,
And that's how you learned about your dad, and that's what you learned about being a man.
Yes. And I
Damn.
think that's probably
Wow.
something that men should also learn is that being around women.
Not a
and
lot of
their
Andrew Tate
emotions,
talk here,
I
huh?
think that's also a lesson for you to learn how to handle those emotions without you necessarily going through it. You know, like you don't have to go through chaos or
so
turmoil
no boyfriend in the house.
to know like, oh my God, this is so bad. That,
Yeah.
Like you can see it and you can experience from an outside perspective and learn and take that information and move with that.
Very powerful. Hopefully,
So-
hopefully everyone listens.
Incredible.
By the way,
I'd also
yeah.
push back a little because people always say like
You
women
just
are
want to push back on everything.
because a
No, I
lot
love
of the
it.
standards are so
I can
dumb.
tell you that the
She
sky
brought
is
up a good
blue,
point.
No,
and
this
you're
is
like, I'm going
great.
to push back on the sky
Listen, well, it
right
depends
now.
on how far up in the atmosphere you are, okay?
Well, yeah, he's the only one that's going to push back for the most part, right? So that's what's happening.
You know, but listen, like the idea that like women are emotional, women are emotional. Okay, men are emotional, and I'm glad she brought this up because the anger thing is a huge fucking issue. Okay,
Yes.
people, guys will say some shit like women are emotional, and then bump into a dude on the street that scuffs his shoes, and then somebody dies like 5 seconds later. Okay,
True.
it's like
Do you think men and women are equally emotional?
I think that
I don't. Who cares? Again, this is a dumb question. We don't need to. I hate questions like this because Destiny is talking about how, like, yes, men are also emotional, and it's just manifests itself differently. And there are times where men are very unrealistic about stuff, right? And they're just emotional different ways. And it's like, great point. And then Pearl's like, well, who's more emotional? Do you think? It's like, why does that matter? Why do you feel the need to constantly try to compare men to women when we can just acknowledge that there's an issue with men sometimes? We don't have to go off on this fucking tangent here. it's just annoying. It's just like I just want it's moments like this where I want people to like really realize like Pearl is constantly looking for the comparison. She's always in like fucking like the comparison mode where she like wants to like dismiss like women and like jerk men off in some capacity. It's like, bro, let's just talk about this men issue. We don't need to bring women into every single fucking thing that we're talking about. Like, yeah, men have a problem regulating their emotions as well. I'm about to fucking go crazy. This fucking death is following me. I'm gonna kick his ass. Leave me alone, bitch. He's gonna kill me.
It's very rare that men and women are like equal in anything,
just
except for maybe like number of limbs.
Like
ability to
I'm
be.
saying by and large, do you think men and women are equally emotional?
Who cares? Maybe they just express differently. Who cares?
Like, I would say probably yes, but it's going to be expressed differently in different ways. So like men are probably, I think men tend to be a little bit more extroverted in their displays of emotion, and women tend to be a little bit more like in their head with it. I think this is a big problem when it comes to child rearing. When little girls cry, the teaching for them is like, hey, you're crying. Why are you crying? Like, let's figure it out. But when boys are upset, they want to like hit something. You say, no, don't do that. So it's like, okay, I can't have emotions as a boy, right?
That's fair. That's interesting. You know, it's interesting. I remember the non-crazy version of Jordan Peterson was talking about ADHD in young boys, and he was talking about how he thinks that it's been overly diagnosed because that a lot of young boys just need to get their aggression out, and we're not really providing as many pathways to do that nowadays. I thought it was such an interesting point because I was diagnosed with ADHD, and but you know, we're in like the computer age, and we're in the age where people are afraid to let their kids go outside, and it's like, was I actually just not able to, get out my frustrations and emotions, or my rambunctious nature? Do I actually have ADHD, or is it a little bit of both? I don't really know. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting that every single time I use my pentagram ability, it doesn't even give me. I know it's supposed to destroy the gems, but there's supposed to be a chance that it doesn't. So I'm angry.
And I think that's something we carry with us throughout like our entire life, as young boys into adolescent men into young men into adulthood. Whereas women are taught from an earlier age to like process their emotions. So it's hard to say like who's more emotional, because like women obviously can express it in some areas, men can express it in other areas.
I think you bring up a very good point, because we all know that dude, if he steps on your shoe in the club, he's trying to fight you now. But I feel like those guys are few and far between. Those guys are looking for a fight, and those guys probably didn't understand like social dynamics and understand how to handle their emotions as.
Maybe. I think though that like stuff like this is a little more common than we want to admit. Like for instance, if there's like a situation where like a man feels okay, so like I feel like this is a scenario a lot of guys can identify with. So the other day my wife and I drove somewhere, and we went like grab something. And when we got there, like she went inside, she grabbed it, she came out, and she's like, oh, I think that this group of like guys was like laughing at me for some reason. And so I went to get out of the car immediately to start yelling at them. And she's like, no, I don't want to cause a scene, blah, blah, blah. And I was pissed, and I wish she let me, but I didn't. Right? And it's like, when we look at it now that I say it out loud, that might have been kind of a silly thing for me to do, and like a very emotional thing for me to do. I don't need to be going around doing that. That would be an issue of maybe of men being a little emotional, because my anger got the better of me, right? I think that this does happen more than people want to admit. It just may not manifest itself in the way that they're talking about.
As a kid. Moving on. Okay. The topic I want to get into now.
Answer your question.
I think my wife said, I think women experience more emotions, and men's emotions are more black and white because they don't cope so they blow up. That might be true. That might make sense. Sure.
What were you going to say?
No, you can go. It's fine.
Okay, moving on. Let's move on, because we've got about 20 minutes left, and we're going to get to super chats.
Yeah.
I do want to address the face of this toxic masculinity these days, which is none other than our friend Andrew Tate. Now,
Andrew Tater Tot.
I'm a fan. I'm a friend. I think he's
a sex trafficker personally. We're kind of at that point where like we're so beyond based on all the things that he said. I have to bring up the list because every time it happens, everybody's like, you're just biased. It's like, no, I have a list here of things. What really got me is like the woman in university thing. When he was asked by Piers Morgan, he's like, what do you think about women in Afghanistan losing their ability to go to the university? And he's like, oh, well, if they're so strong, let them fight for it themselves. Later decided to back up and be like, well, it's just not my country. I don't really want to weigh in on it. Not giving a prescription of this is a bad thing. That's a problem. As a man, you're supposed to protect those who can't protect themselves. Yes, women cannot physically protect themselves nearly as well as men. Absolutely. Just like men can't have babies, but we shouldn't be withholding our role to be protectors because you think it's silly and funny because you hate feminism. Women have every right to go to university. There's no reason that they don't. The glorifying of historical figures like Genghis Khan specifically for conquering wealth and women, despite the fact that Genghis Khan was a historical rapist. advocating for cheating and saying it's morally good. He explicitly said it was a morally good thing for men to cheat, and women shouldn't be able to cheat. Cheating is bad regardless. We can have a nuanced conversation about the way that men typically cheat versus women. Men tend to be a little more physical. Women tend to be a little bit more emotional. I do think that physical cheating isn't as bad as emotional cheating, because emotional cheating means that you've checked out of the relationship, but women can physically cheat and men can emotionally cheat. But it's still bad regardless. It's a destruction of trust in a relationship that you will always have to fight to bring back, right? Talk about women as an asset in a business sense, in a way where women are like property. Comparing his business of webcam farming to the way that treating his girls in a way where it's unique and just like pimping and abusing women, basically, because pimping on the street is abusing women, and setting himself apart from other webcam businesses that don't operate like that. Talking about how he has to fuck the girls that will work for him. Talking about how in order to get these girls, he'd get them to fall in love with him first, and then he would have them work for them. That sounds like some kind of like next level fucking grooming. There are so many different things here for Andrew Tate. This is why I don't like him. Not because, oh, I'm a fat guy that looks like a Reddit modder. In the real world, I'm 6'4", and you'd cry if you saw me. But like, I don't care what I look like. These are explicit reasons. I dislike Andrew Tate, not because he says base shit, because he's disrespectful to women. And the number one thing about being a man is respect. That's why I don't like Andrew Tate. Those are the specific reasons. And we need to stop playing these fucking childish games where it's like, no, you're just a simp. You're a fucking idiot. And you're a child. And I don't know what else to tell you. But those are the real reasons. And you guys are fucking coping every time that, like, you know, somebody says something about him. So yeah, I do believe that he is a fucking sex trafficker, because again, he moved to Romania to escape the Me Too movement and to use money to be able to buy out the government. And guess what? He's still getting fucked. He's still getting hit in there. He's still getting arrested. So he probably did it. Okay? This, you know, I get it. Online Twitter accusations are not the same thing as a fucking police arresting you. Okay? That's what it comes down to. I don't know what to tell you.
I think he's been sold a bill of goods. We'll see what happens here. The latest news.
What does that mean?
I saw your episode that you did the other day with
where we covered his how to traffic women guide.
So this whole lover boy method thing was where you can make women fall in love with you, which is not easy to do, by the way. But you make women fall in love with you, and then you coerce them into sex trafficking. The charges, I guess, against him now are suspicion of human trafficking, sex trafficking, potentially rape. Doubt that.
Doubt that. Why? Why do you doubt that?
Organizing crime group. And then the easiest ones, well, they'll always get you if they want to get you, are money laundering and tax evasion.
He explicitly has said live that he does not pay taxes. He uses cryptocurrency to not pay taxes. That is, of course, they're going to get him on something that he's engaging in. He's given the advice that, like, you should just not pay your taxes because the government won't enforce it. Like, of course, they're going to get him on it. Duh.
That's how they get Capone. That's how they get all these guys, okay? I guess the latest news is he's been detained for an additional 30 days. In Romanian prison. I really enjoyed that breakdown you did with the Romanian attorney, basically breaking down the case. You did that, and then Sneeko came on, and I don't know, kind of said his case.
Yeah.
What was that?
What Sneeko was doing to Andrew Tate.
What was Sneeko doing?
Slurping up.
Oh, wow.
Gotta love it.
All you guys do. You guys suck him off so hard.
No,
True.
I called Tate on a few things.
Okay. All right.
So there's people in the chat.
You just said that you don't think that you don't think that he actually like raped those women or anything. Like, you just, I don't know. Like, it seems like you're not even open to listening to what's happening, but okay.
They're like, oh, Adam said one bad thing about Tate. He should go to hell now. It's like, relax, dude. But you interviewed Tate recently. I think you were the last interview of Tate before he went to jail. Okay, so I want to get the panel's basically take on what are your thoughts on Tate? Do you think these charges are trumped up? Do you think he's actually going to be seeing real legitimate jail time here? And what will the final outcome be? So, you want to go first? Ladies
well, I don't know all the facts of the case, I'd like to say. So from what I understand, could you explain more about, like...
Well, let's let the man who just did a breakdown.
I don't know.
So Andrew Tate is being accused of, essentially, he gets women...
I feel like as somebody in the manosphere, you would need to try to educate yourself on the facts of the situation, since, like, that's your guru.
Into this, like, mind state where they're very much into him. And then I think his goal is to get that woman to a dinner with another woman that works for him. He gets that woman to convince the other woman that is, like, in love with him to, like, start camming and doing sex work. And I think he flies them out to, I think they were doing their business in Romania. He basically has, like, this, like, cam girl sweatshop set up in their basement where he's got all these women working. And then he just kind of, like, keeps them strung along that way, like, doing camming shit, defrauding them on their taxes and stealing money from them, and then doing that indefinitely. And then...
Yeah, like, he would even say that he would pay the women. He would intentionally withhold the information that he wasn't paid taxes so that he could pay the women less or something like that. which is like lying explicitly to the women about how much money that they're getting paid and stuff. Yeah.
There's also some of the charges, I think, accused of threats of physical and emotional abuse, I think, as well. And then there was that one threat of, or there was the rape thing, too. But I don't know if that was accused to Andrew or if it just said that was about the 4 people. So it might not have been Andrew himself that was accused of that.
But the whole thing is like, he said all of this on camera loudly and proudly, meaning, here is my business model.
Okay.
As case example, you're a pretty girl.
Okay, so I know where he's gonna go. He's gonna go with you that the red flags were there. He said this on camera. Do you think that all the girls are looking up Andrew Tate's like stupid fucking like YouTube business bullshit and they're going like, oh well, I watched this and this is no, they're not doing that.
You want to make some money. You're doing OnlyFans. You're doing all types of video chatting things anyway. Okay.
No, that's not true. He said the majority of the women that he did this with had never done sex work in any capacity before. That's another huge red flag. They weren't doing this anyway. He even explicitly says most of them hadn't been doing it before, which contributes to the suspicious nature of it. What are you talking about? You're not even correct about that.
Come with me, and you can make $10,000 a month.
No,
It
there's
wasn't.
one flaw. He's going for new girls.
Yeah,
not
they
girls who
weren't
are-
girls in the
Okay,
industry.
all right. So he's
Yeah.
recruiting. You have existing salespeople and you have new salespeople. That's how businesses work.
Okay.
I'm just boiling it down to the
can I-
basic.
can I ask
Hear me
a
out. Hear me out. Before everyone jumps in, you can make $10,000 a month in my business model, but I keep half. Or you can attempt to do it yourself.
Which was a lie because he wasn't paying taxes, and he would explicitly tell them that he was that he was paying taxes, and then he would basically manipulate them into like taking less money. So it's another.
and you can make $2,000 a month, and you can do it, and you keep 100%. Here are your options, and that's the way that he's broken it down on camera multiple times. So he says, "I've seen."
Yeah, on camera. That doesn't mean that they're watching the videos. They're probably not fans of Andrew Tate on the internet. All right. And a lot of these women, too, which we don't talk about a lot, are Ukrainian women who are desperate for any type of job after, like, the war had happened as well and, like, shit going on over there. At least that's, like, the new business model. So, like, they're already feeling pressured into doing it. So they're going to accept whatever bullshit terms anyway.
Consistently go out and try to do it on your own. You make less money. Come to me.
And fundamentally, let me be clear here. He even says that he's different from the majority of the other webcam businesses. So those other businesses might be treating the women decently. I don't really know. But Andrew Tate is like, he talks about how he's like a next level when it comes to this shit. So it's not the same.
You'll make more, but I'm also going to make some money. And that's how he made his fucking money. And that's his business model.
The video
Whether
wasn't
he was
for-
doing tax evasion, money laundering, coercion, that's another story. But he's been very open of that's what the business model
The
was.
business model, he wasn't selling it. Or sorry, you want to talk about
No, I just had a question about. So were the girls free to leave the whole time?
That's, I think, a contentious point. I think there were logs leaked where there was talk of passport holding, and that's where the threat of physical and emotional violence come in. But I would have to see what the actual accusations
And
were
the
about.
accusations, what did they accuse him of? You said
Human
rape.
trafficking?
No, rape. It was emotional. You said something.
So there were 4 people that I don't know if there's been a new press release, but the
Okay.
Romanian document announced 4 people. Andrew Tate being one of them. Of those 4 people, one
Tristan
of them
Tate,
was
his
accused of
brother.
rape. There was create a criminal organization. There was sex trafficking, and then there was money laundering. But I don't think it's specifically who was charged with what. That's my memory of it.
Here's what I'll say.
And-
And this is totally my opinion. Totally my opinion. Let's say Andrew Tate had 100 girls working for him. Let's just say. And 99 of them were free to leave, all good, do whatever you want, no issues whatsoever. And then there was this one girl who had fucking issues. She threw up in the house and wouldn't clean it up. I think Sneeko brought up this example.
Yeah, that's
right?
what Andrew Tate's friend Sneeko said.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm giving.
Okay.
I wasn't there. I'm not here to clean up the vomit.
Well, that's what Andrew Tate had said, and then Sneeko was repeating it. So, like, yes, that's his side of the story.
I'm just saying, I can see how this slippery slope happens.
How?
There's this one girl, 99 of the other girls are fine, they're making their money, whatever. Again, this is my opinion. This one girl does something wrong, throws up, disrespects, talks shit, whatever it was, and now there's an issue with this one girl. And they're going to take this issue with this one girl that he held her passport or he wronged her or he physically harassed her because this one girl was acting up. So now you want to take this.
So, first of all, that's the story that Andrew Tate is telling people. Second of all, if you're doing something to one girl, you're probably open to doing it to other people. So just keep that in mind.
One case and paint this broad brush around this dude that he's just raping and pillaging women galore. And that to me is, I think, unfair.
Okay,
because
hold on.
I don't
Wait,
think
but you
that's what he
don't
was
even
doing.
know the first of all, we
Again,
already
I
know-
said that is my opinion.
Sure. If he's doing what he said he did in his videos, he is a sex trafficker. Full stop.
Like what?
He says that he gets girls to fall in love with him. He says that he brings them to a dinner with another girl that's working for him with the express intent of that girl to convince this girl.
Wait, but did she freely choose to do it?
It-
I just don't. I'm sorry. If I'm thinking, okay,
We'll let him finish What he's saying.
I'm putting myself in these girls' shoes. I get a boyfriend, right? And the boyfriend convinces me to do cam work. That was my decision.
That's
that
great
was
that you
my
think that.
decision.
That's cool.
Personal decisions,
I
personal
just feel like, I'm
responsibility.
so
That's great that
sorry.
you think that.
Can you not cut me
It's
off?
sex
Can you
tra-
not cut me off?
She literally cut him off first while he was in the middle of starting the explanation. So
Like, I'm just tired of, like, we're going to blame the men for your poor decision. You
we're not blaming the men. We're blaming a shit worthless garbage man, Andrew Tate.
picked to do it.
That's great that you feel that way, but it's still sex trafficking. Your personal feelings don't matter. That's
By the
still
way,
sex
you're a
trafficking.
European girl living in the former USSR. You have no other job options, and you're hot and you're young.
Sure, or
Boom.
oftentimes-
Time to
And
start
then-
doing
and
sex
they were
relations.
complaining about the money.
I want to hear what Dustin has to say,
They were complaining about the money.
but they're so afraid they won't let him talk.
But he was actively stealing from them.
Yeah, he admits
not
that. He
actively-
does admit
He
that.
literally said,
Yeah.
when you're filling out these dumb women's tax forms, you can lie to them about the tax forms and take 20, 40% off the top. He
That is
literally
where
said
I
that.
think you
Yeah.
were right.
Yeah.
That is
Okay.
where I think you were
But
right.
even
Hear me out.
I was
That
going
is
off-
where I think they will get him.
Yeah.
No,
Because
even hold on, no. Even I think you just got to that point. Even if they willingly took all the time, it's still sex trafficking. If I fly to another country,
Yeah.
bring you to a country, you don't speak the language, lock you in a basement,
that-
and then tell you
that-
like, hey, stream it, I'll cut you.
not a
That's
lawyer,
sex trafficking.
but for me, that's definition-wise, maybe you're right.
Okay,
maybe you're
okay.
wrong. I don't know.
That's great.
Definition-wise, maybe, but morally, I don't think so. Okay, is that what his point is?
To me, it's not sex trafficking.
That's fine.
Because I agree with Pearl. These women knew what they were doing. They knew what they were signing up for. They were free to leave. He wasn't holding their
The problem is that when you say that they knew what they were signing up for, did they? Or did they think that they were signing up to be a webcam model, and then that was completely flipped on its fucking head after they got to know Andrew Tate? Because again, Andrew also says that he has to have sex with all of them. He makes it very explicitly clear that you have to sleep with all of them. So, like, if you have to sleep with all of them, it's leading to some pretty fucked up scenarios. Like, if they won't fuck them, like, then what? Because he also expects these women to, like, cook and clean for him and do all these other responsibilities for him. There's too many red flags. It's not just that one thing. He talks about you have to have them fall in love with you. You have to have sex with them. They can't be with any other guys. They can't do this. They can't. These are the things that he says. He says that they're bad if they're with other people. It creates a conflict of interest. They have to be loyal to only you. This isn't the same thing. It's just not. It's not like these aren't just like, oh. It's not just like, oh, it's a choice. No, it's an entire lifestyle. It's something to keep in mind. I mean, holy fuck.
their passports. But if he was skimming money off the top with taxes,
Yeah.
that's what they'll
Sure.
get.
So these are the two stages, and I agree that that's what you're going to say, because I know that's what all the Tate fans are going to say. First, they're going to say he didn't do it, and then when they said he did do it, and it's obviously clearly sex trafficking, then it's going to be, oh, okay, well, sure, he's sex trafficking, but it's okay. That's not even like real sex trafficking. Or who cares about sex trafficking? They chose to go to another country where they didn't speak the language. He was stealing money from them, and they were locked in for the first
What
time ever
about
doing
that?
sex
So
work.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the Romanian legal system. I don't know the definition of that. Okay, I'm not going to pretend
You don't
I do.
have
I'm sorry.
major
It
in
might
Sex
be-
trafficking,
Romanian
it's
law?
pretty international. It's an international thing, but yeah.
I don't know. I don't study sex trafficking. It's not my area of expertise. But my question is, what is incorrect about that statement? Do you not think the women should take accountability for the choices that they made?
They should, but that's besides the point.
You can take accountability. I'm
Like,
not asking about what the punishment should be for the women. They probably been punished enough. I imagine if they worked and had money stolen from them. What we're talking about was what Andrew Tate did, which is sex trafficking, right? They're probably women that make bad decisions.
Allegedly.
But I'm saying, why
Allegedly.
is
That's what
it?
he's charged with. That's
Why
what
is
he's
it?
charged
Allegedly.
Why
Let's
is
just
it?
be
Why
clear
is it
about
wrong
that.
if they
It's not
freely chose to do
proven.
it?
Because the scenario of being brought into an area that they were uncomfortable with a person that made them fall in love before anything else, with the rhetoric that you have to have sex with them, they have to fall in love with you, and they can't be with any other person or guy. These things set up for an entire scenario of an actual like adult grooming situation where these women have their ability to have their autonomy there. And if you add in the part where he may have been forcing them to stay, then you have another aspect of like what is it called? Like fucking whatever, whatever the fuck it's called, kidnapping or something in some capacity. Like it's not the same as what you're saying. It's not, free will isn't absolute. Like if I told you that you're free to come and go, but if you I'm trying to figure out like an applicable scenario because this is so fucking intense. I mean, I just don't know. Because it's not just like, yeah, you're free to come and go. Like, there's so many different aspects of this.
Why is it wrong if I get somebody in a relationship with me and then I'm able to flip that into them working as a prostitute for me?
You freely chose to do it. I just think there's nobody. I couldn't date a single
There you
guy
go.
that could make me want to do that.
That's great for
I'm-
you, but
I'm
we're not- this
sorry.
isn't about you. This story isn't about you, though.
I'm
I
saying,
love how passionate you are and the words you use, but like, we have to be careful. These aren't prostitutes. They're hear me out.
Andrew Tate has explicitly talked about them as if they were prostitutes. He says he treats these women the same way that pimps treat prostitutes. They are being treated as such, and like that's what he says. Like prostitutes get abused. That's all we really have to say. Andrew Tate brags about how he treats women in the same way that prostitutes are treated on the fucking street by their pimps. He's bragging to people about like abusing women. What are you talking about? This is you're pretending to be fucking nuanced here, but you're not. You have no idea. You never even watched what was going on.
Sex workers.
They're
Sorry.
on camera doing cam girl shit. At any point, they can turn off their camera. At any point, they can say, "I don't feel like it today." but they're
Maybe, or I mean, I don't know if that's true because then you have like the whole entrapment aspect of it as well.
doing it to make money. This is a job so they can make money.
OnlyFans.
Now, OnlyFans, hello.
Except they're in another country where they don't speak the language.
What do you mean
where
they
they're
don't
in
speak the language?
This
They're
is
in
like saying
Europe.
anybody at any time could go and buy and sell the right options, the right puts or calls to be a billionaire. That's true. But the hard part is making the picks, right? If you're flown to a whole other fucking country, you've got some dude that you think is your fucking boyfriend that's in love with you, and now you're doing sex work for the first time in your life. You don't speak the language around here. The guy's stealing money from you. Who knows if you even know how to fucking
I'm
book a
sorry,
ticket
unless
out.
these girls are beyond naive. If they
Sure,
see
and that's
99 other
fine.
girls there,
Okay, cool.
they don't think this is my boyfriend and he loves me.
That's great, and
he's
that's
like,
fine.
now I'm a part of a harem.
There's literally a name for the method.
Hold
That's why
on.
it's called the Loverboy method. This is exactly
Yes.
what they do. But if you don't care about sex trafficking, that's fine. And a lot of people
No,
apparently
that-
now they don't care about sex trafficking, which is cool.
I'm not
but
saying I
like-
don't care about sex trafficking.
Kind of saying it. It's a lot of downplaying. I'm surprised Destiny doesn't know of the other spot, like where Andrew Tate explicitly talks. I mean, he probably does. I guess he's just not keeping it in mind. Where he calls them like prostitutes. Like he says he treats them in that like abusive dynamic.
Would you say that there's the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking and then there's the Tate thing and they're not even
Who cares? It doesn't matter. The comparison is irrelevant. That's like saying like, yeah, well, this person raped somebody. Yeah, but that guy raped and then murdered them. So is like the rape really that bad? It's like they're both equally, well, not equally bad, but they don't have to be equally bad to be bad things. Oh, yeah, that person raped the girl. Yeah, but that person raped a child. So it's like the guy who just raped a person that wasn't a child as bad? No, they're not as bad technically, but they're still pretty bad. It's a stupid comparison. Like it's like comparing anybody to Hitler and being like, yeah, well, I know that this guy killed 1,000 people, but he didn't kill 6 million Jews. But that's debatable, guys, because I haven't seen the information or the facts on it, even though I have never looked into it. Right? Like, you understand? This is dumb. This is a dumb argument. It's childish.
even fucking close?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
What?
Go,
Why?
state your case.
I don't. What's the definition of sex trafficking? I don't. I just would
Here's
think.
Natalia.
We're debating the definition of sex trafficking. This is incredible. These are the people. These are them, guys. These are your champions.
Here's,
Got
I would
three
just,
factors.
I agree, Pro.
I would just think that it was that you aren't free to go. That's what I thought. I thought it's only sex trafficking if they're underage or they can't leave. That's what I thought.
You said there's three things?
I believe there is. I watched some legal breakdown. There's got to be physical pressure, physical violence, coercion, and one more.
Or it was, I forget what it was, but it's ors. You don't have to do, I don't think, well, maybe you have to do all three. But I don't think you have to do all three for it to be like, I guess I have to rewatch the legal analysis.
Force, fraud, and coercion.
Yeah, fraud
Yes.
and coercion. Yeah.
So fraud is
I don't think you need all those. I think that those are just different factors of but okay, or different ways that this could happen. Maybe I'm wrong.
He's
fraud is
stealing
the
the
taking the
taxes.
money. The coercion we don't really know about because we don't know what the evidence.
Because
the police has.
that's all he said. She said right now.
Right now, but
right
we don't
now.
know what evidence the police has. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I think the only reasonable position is to be agnostic until you see what develops of the case.
Yeah.
There's plenty, if you look at what Andrew Tate says, there's pretty good reasons to be like, yeah, this guy's fucking scum garbage.
Here's I think the biggest point here. Tate has become famous for talking that shit on social media, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram.
Okay.
And what will make you famous will also
fuck you in the ass.
will fucking put your ass in jail. And that's the problem that he's having.
Most famous people don't have this problem. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never seen issues with like Mr. Beast. I've never seen issues with most YouTubers. There's issues with some YouTubers, of course, but this isn't like. I just feel like there's so many brush downs. It's like, well, if you think about it, if you get rich, you're going to be open to this. But it doesn't seem to be happening to the same degree or at all. But okay.
Right now, I do this is how I make my money. I'm a badass. It's like, yo, this guy's sick. Let me follow this guy. You're going to jail for the exact same reason. That's the problem that he's going to have.
going to jail for.
Yeah, what are you talking?
This is such bullshit.
He said
he's going to jail because he's in an Eastern European country that wants to be taken seriously on the world stage, and he's bragging about sex trafficking in the fucking country. That's why he got charged. He's going to
That's
jail.
literally my
point.
point.
But that's not. But Andrew Tate isn't known for telling young men how to sex traffic. He's known for challenging the matrix and challenging the system.
No,
That's
no,
like, people are trying to. People are
that's
trying
not
to.
true.
He's been-
He
he's
has a
been
whole
talking
course
about
about
the-
that.
yeah.
He might have been talking about it, but that's not why he gained popularity, and that's not why people are saying he's being targeted by Romania or the Western world. People are saying, oh, they're targeting because he's telling young men how to
The
break free of the
point
matrix
he's
and be
making
independent.
is the fact that he's bragged about so much
You've
publicly
said
is
it
what's
so
going
many
to bug
times.
him, and that is what's going to
If you want to
back.
know what I think Tate's
What's their defense here? Like he's talked about sex trafficking publicly a lot, so they're just getting him from that. Sure, okay. What this is kind of devolving, but okay.
stands for, what I actually think he stands for, it's not. Okay, he talks about the matrix and the system, and he has very loudly talked about how he makes his money and the cam.
The biggest reason that he's popular is because he shits on women. He's fucking based, and young boys really like that. And he generates a victim complex in these young boys. Like that's why they gravitate towards him, because he says that everything else is everybody else's problem. There's a matrix, and it's all the matrix fault, it's all the women's fault, and there's no like personal responsibility or accountability on these people. And of course, there are issues, but he's not acknowledging the issues while teaching people to be stronger. He's like leaning into those issues and then fucking manipulating people into giving him money.
Girls, and he talks talks about, whether he's toxic masculinity, what he's labeled as, what I actually think Tate stands for is just male self-improvement.
No.
Getting in the gym, going to being
No, he doesn't. Those are parts of what he's saying. That's not what he stands for. That's just not what he stands for. That's not the majority of the message that's going on. If you're able to overlook the blatant disrespect of women, treating them like second-class citizens and like shit, then yes, that's the message you'll get. But in order for you to dismiss those aspects, you have to not give a fuck about women, right? Again, if I said the same fucking thing, same self-improvement things, if I was fucking jacked, an MMA fighter and this and the other thing, and I said all the same things I said about women, that Tate says about women, if I said them about fucking black people instead, we'd be calling me a racist. But we don't do that because we don't give it, like, we just don't care. That's what it comes down to. It's so normalized to be fucking like sexist for whatever reason. I don't really understand it.
a badass, making money, and if you make the money, you get the women, you get the Bugattis. But he's talking about becoming a better version of yourself.
No,
But nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about being a sex trafficker. They want to talk
Because he traffics women, probably. The good chance of it.
about him doing all the fucking ridiculous things out there. That to me is his message, but it gets masked by all this other nonsense. So here's my next question.
Because he does the masking.
Let's say Tate is innocent. Let's just say Tate is innocent.
Okay.
Go with me here. Who do you think is pulling the strings, trying to get him fucking set up and put in jail? Go with me here. Who do you think is? Do you think it's corporations? Do you think it's government?
Greta
So,
for sure.
yeah, it's Greta for sure. So his thing is like, let's say he's actually innocent. Who's pulling the strings? You're proposing a conspiracy narrative. What, like, it's so blatantly clear that he deserves to be arrested. I don't really know what else to tell you.
Greta Thunberg? You think it's the World Economic Forum? You think it's the U.S. government? You think it's like? Let's just say Tate's innocent.
I think
and
it's
he hasn't
him,
done any of this. Innocent
I think that it's him sex trafficking women.
proven guilty, ladies and gentlemen. Who do you think is saying this fucking Tate guy? We got to bring this motherfucker down.
I don't think there
Who's
needs to
doing
be.
it?
Nobody.
I don't think-
Destiny before proposed the idea that like Romania wants to be taken seriously on the world stage, so it's possible that they're feeling pressure to actually deal with this situation because they want to be taken seriously. And as he just stays there and lives there and takes advantage of like whatever fucking lax laws that they have, they feel the need to like go after him. That's your best argument. That's the best thing that you could say.
I think there needs to be a big conspiracy. I think it can be as simple as either a prosecutor doesn't like him and makes the wrong decision. Sometimes police mess up.
Or he's actually did it.
Or it could be the U.S. Embassy put a little pressure on Romania. That could have also happened. But I don't think there's this big international conspiracy.
So you
going
don't
on.
think it goes to some top
No,
World
I don't.
Economic Forum
No, I
matrix
don't believe in
situation?
that.
Charles Schwab.
that's
Charles
dumb.
Schwab, Chuck Schwab.
I've heard that name so much.
World
that-
Economic Forum.
No,
You'll
the
be,
Charles
you'll own
Schwab.
nothing and be happy.
I'm not that deep into the red pill yet. There's like layers, so I haven't hit the like they call it the deep state,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that the Pizzagate?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Well,
don't
you're
know
familiar
that.
with this world. Go crazy with.
Yeah, so we're getting like apparently Alex Jones is the end boss in fucking in the manosphere.
Me. Go conspiracy theory.
If I was going full
Who's
conspiracy,
at the top saying
the
we
top
have
would
to
be
bring this
some
man
Romanian
down?
official who's
Ted
like, our
King super chatted $5. Realizing Tate is a bad person would make too much sense and would crumble their grift.
True. That's another part too, because they make their money exclusively through Manosphere. So now if they don't acknowledge their king of the Manosphere, they lose money.
country is trying to be taken more seriously. Okay, Eastern European
Or maybe they really believe this. I don't know, but
countries are like, I think, vying for validity from the West, and now we've got a guy that's in our country, you know, flagrantly talking about and bragging about sex trafficking. So we're gonna take this guy down. If I was to entertain a conspiracy, that would be my guess of where it would come.
I would say this is that he talks about corruption, right? And he goes, every country's corrupt. Every country's corrupt. Now, do you want to be in a country like the West? Because Tate talks very badly
Yes.
about the United States, the West, UK.
yeah, it's always the funniest that the people who got successful because of the West shit on the West the most. Yeah, the West is terrible. That's just how I became a millionaire. That's how I was able to start off my career, because I was in the West. I was able to like take advantage of things like Big Brother to become famous, or like kickboxing, which is really big in the West and pays pretty well in the West. You know, the West is so bad, but that's where I grew up, and that's where like all the money and success is. But it's such a bad place to be. It's so ironic that they talk about how bad it is.
London, EU, doesn't speak highly above it. That's why he likes more Eastern Europe, Dubai. You know, he's converted to Islam. He talks about the fact that in Romania, he's like, I like the fact that I could just go give a bag of cash and get out of the corruption and just pay it off.
Well, it
Yes.
hasn't worked this time.
Well, that's exactly.
The bag's not big.
But that's the big red flag, is that he's able to go. He wanted to move somewhere where he could engage in corruption. Nobody goes somewhere to engage in political corruption as a fun little meme. There's no like, oh yeah, I just went here to get so I could speed and get out of it. No, it's incredibly deep implications when you move to a country saying that you want to get away from the Me Too movement and you want to make you want to be able to fucking pay cops off. Like, it goes deeper. And obviously he's not going to be like, yeah, he says it's just because of getting out of tickets. But do you think that that's all it is? Or do you think he tries to get out of more than just fucking tickets? Like, this is fucking ridiculous.
That's why I think that he talks about the sex trafficking. I think that there's some prosecutor in Romania. Like, if you want to go there, there's some prosecutor in Romania or some judge or some legal aristocrat, whoever, that's like, oh, right? Okay, bro. Well, test me. You're in my country. Let's see if we're that corrupt. And I think there's maybe somebody with a bone to pick. But so maybe
I think it's really dangerous to promote conspiracy narratives, but
it's not the Charles Schwabs of the world and the Greta Thunbergs of the world and the Matrix. Maybe it's just some dude in Romania.
The reality too is that like when you talk about corruption, there's gonna be different types of corruption, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if I could go to a place like Romania and get like a speeding ticket and pay off the cop, maybe more than I could in the United States. But like double homicide, that's probably a different thing. So the idea that like
There's
all
levels to
corruption
this.
is the same and
I
you can
think
pay off
that's-
anybody for anything, probably not true.
I think that's
I've
a
heard
very
that
good example.
If you're
Yes,
in
you're right.
Romania and you are doing anything involved with casinos, you're greasing wheels or greasing gears with like pretty bad people. Like that's just like a given.
You're affiliated with bad people, yes.
Absolutely, that has to be the case.
Yes.
But I don't think that means you can get away with like blatantly sex trafficking or like raping or killing or like doing crazy shit.
Especially
like
if you're not a high-profile figure. If
Sure.
you are a high-profile figure.
Huh. All right, so give me your prediction. What's going to happen to Tate in 30 days? Prediction.
We have to hope that there's an extension on him, so he stays in jail longer and they move forward. Because apparently in Romania they don't detain until the trial's over. They detain for 30 days, and you have to request an extension and blah 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 blah. So I don't know if we got to that part of the extension yet.
Me first?
Yeah.
I like to wait until the facts of the case are out. It could go either way. It could be that
How
a couple
diplomatic
women,
of you.
Well, because it could be that a couple women gave testimony. They can't validate it anywhere else. They've got maybe a couple whatever text messages and that's it. And then nothing comes of it. It could be that he didn't do anything actually that wrong. Maybe they did all freely choose to go there. They thought they could make some money. They weren't happy with the money they made, and now they came back and they're trying to burn him. It could be that he actually did engage in a whole bunch of fucked up shit, and we're going to see way more release from the Romanian authorities. But it could be anything.
How about this? I'm going to re-ask the question because
Oh,
forget
okay.
about predictions. Who knows what's going to happen because it's very easy to say, let's just wait for the case comes out. How about this? Let's just keep it simple. Do you think that Tate, who has taken the internet by storm over the last 6-12 months, do you think he's a net negative or a net positive for society and specifically young men? What
Net negative, 100%. 1000%. If you look at the people that really gravitate towards Tate, they're not people who are trying to like work hard and get their shit together. A lot of them are people who are looking for like instant success. Those are people paying for like Hustlers University, because even Sneeko himself has said historically, you don't need to go and buy like a secret success from people. You really just need to try to do your best to be like the best advice I can give you is I go do a fucking trade and you can find financially successful. It's a lot of people who are chasing like the fucking dream of being rich and famous and this and the other thing. He's a net negative. He teaches disrespect. Even if you think that there are good messages from what he says, he's too disrespectful. He doesn't give a shit about women. He thinks women are less than. So like, yeah, he's a net negative.
do you think, Alex?
I would say
And he's making a bunch of young men unfuckable. Because if you listen to Andrew Tate, no one's gonna fuck you. If you have money and you listen to Andrew Tate, it doesn't really matter what you do because you have money. But if you don't have money and you listen to Andrew Tate, no one's going to fuck you. Okay? You may be like, oh, you look like a Reddit moderator. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're just not going to have sex. There's a reason why you're not having sex if you're not respecting women. Okay? People often cry about how, like, in the West, women are more masculine and that's why we can't get them. Yeah, because women more masculine, you mean that they have job opportunities where they don't have to fucking be with rapists. That put them in situations where they can do whatever they want to them because they're not be able to make their own money. Okay? Women, and I'm not saying that there aren't issues with women nowadays, but what I'm saying is that you're not going to get pussy, and you can cope as much as you want by saying that I'm fat and ugly, but I can easily get fucking pussy. I've always been able to. Well, not always, when I was born. Even when I was born, I came out of one. It's not that hard. Like, women aren't really that difficult. Like, basic levels of respect. It's really not that big of a fucking deal. That's really what it comes down to. And I don't know what else to tell you. If you want to be able to get girls, you need to respect them. It's not as difficult as you think. You're going to fail a lot, like on dating apps and shit, because you're a guy and like, obviously it's the dynamics are different. But if you just learn to fail, you'll be able to get girls. That's really all it comes down to. If you don't cry every time a girl fucking says no to you, you'll be okay. Okay?
net positive overall.
Net positive.
Yeah.
Why?
Negative.
There's some things he says that are a little cringe that I disagree with, but overall about like
overall they're
making men
terrible.
more masculine, taking accountability, working out, getting your finances in order. Those are all good messages.
Fully agree.
Wow.
How about you, Pearl?
You could go to a tax professional to give you all the same advice that Andrew Tate does without the sex trafficking charges.
You've interviewed him. You sat with him. You're the last one of us to actually see him in the flesh. Net negative or net positive for society?
I would say net positive. I think most of his message is about self-improvement.
I agree.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I
It's
would say
not.
net
It's objectively incorrect. Most of his messages are about shitting on women. Like, at least acknowledge that. You want to say it's out of context stuff. They just pulled it. It's its own fans pulling that out of context stuff. It's part of his like business model of getting people to get signed up. Like the people get like 48% if they get other people signed up for Hustlers University. So they put these really based out of context clips because they generate hype and attention for him. That's where that comes from more than anything else. So like, but that's what it is. That's who he is. I don't know what to tell you.
positive.
Like, but it's easy to call him a chauvinist and a
Yeah, 'cause he
misogynist.
is.
But that's a negative thing these days, is telling men to improve. How about you? Back to you. Do you
That's not why people do that. Okay.
think he's a net?
What do you think?
Net negative or net
I
positive?
say net. Do we need another guide here saying go to the gym, get your finances in order, like be a man? I don't know how much like uniqueness he's offering there that's valid.
You have to admit that he's very unique, bro.
Is he really? I mean, like he is in like the hyper consumerist, like look at all my fucking cars sense. But like I don't know.
I think that's bullshit.
His advice isn't particularly unique. He's just has a lot of followers because he's an asshole. I don't know what to tell you. The only reason he's successful is because he's a provocateur. That's it. That's what it comes down to. Like, it's easy to be famous from saying like really like edgy fucking sexist shit. So
I think if he was just,
You
I
can't argue
think
he's
if he was
impacted-
Ubering everywhere, the
he's
message would be
impacted
just as
more people
powerful.
probably in 6 months than
if he was Ubering everywhere, you wouldn't listen to him because he would just be some fucking pleb that was Ubering everywhere. That's so.
most people
Yes.
have in their entire
Yeah,
career.
you're doing
he's
it-
reached
I-
people that were
yeah.
never involved in
What, you said he's
self-improvement.
unique. Give me some unique messages from Tate.
Well, no,
It doesn't have to be a unique message. It's about the impact.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Yeah, and the only reason he hit the impact is because he's so obnoxious. Like, his advertisement is disrespecting women. If he just gave the improvement advice, he wouldn't be as famous because people don't want the improvement advice. They want the female hatred advice, and they backpedal and go, well, he does talk about self-improvement. It's pathetic. That's not his main core message. People aren't into him for that shit. Most people are into him because he's a fucking meme.
You can't. I
can't
interview
deny the
people on the
impact. Fully
street
agree.
all the time, like young kids, and they're like the biggest Tate fans. Like I have
Wow,
never
sounds like a
seen
fucking
anyone
mental
with that much of a
disorder.
reach. Like,
Yeah, but I
it's
mean, I don't know if my
Oh, what? People, of course, he has a reach. Being famous and popular doesn't mean that you're a good person.
11-year-old son was a huge Tate fan, that would very scare me.
all right, well, then
Really
we flip it
scary
on
me.
you.
Yeah.
Who do you want your 11-year-old son to admire, and you can't say a video gamer?
How about yourself? Think he wants him to admire probably himself.
I can't say a video game.
Can't say it. Who do you want your 11-year-old? This goes back to the young destiny of who he was going to look up to. If it's not someone like Tate, who do you want your 11-year-old son looking up to these days?
Yourself. What are you talking about?
Damn, I would say that probably it would be relevant to whatever career he wanted to go into.
He's
So if
11
he
years
wanted
old.
to-
Who gives a shit about
Well,
career?
yeah. So right
So
now
who do
he
you-
looks up to like fucking
being-
movie characters. He likes Spider-Man
Okay.
and shit like that. So I think
Okay.
like Marvel superheroes are probably okay for kids.
All right, that's fair. So a
But
lot
not
of
real.
a lot of young kids would say that he's the closest thing to that in real life.
Mario, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, how about yourself? Like, you as a man. I don't know what I want my kid looking up to. Okay.
Boxer, badass, smart, good with women, driving Bugattis.
Okay. Very interesting. It's very clear to me that it doesn't matter what information came out about Andrew Tate. They're always going to suck his dick off because they know that it's profitable for them to do that.
Living in mansions, smoking cigars, will fuck you up and fuck your girl. Kind of a badass.
Yeah, but like 5 out of 9 of those things. Like I don't want my kid fantasizing about Bugattis, mansions, people that girls.
Yeah, Bugatti is just a means to an end. It means you.
No, a Bugatti is a status symbol, and when you chase status symbols, you become a failure as society. That's the reality. The people who focus on status symbols are losers. You have to have too much money to have status symbols, right? Because then, if you can't get those status symbols, because you can't be the tenth of a percent, what you end up doing is you just hate yourself. Like, fuck, I don't have the Bugatti, I don't have the Rolex, I don't have the this. I'm not successful until I. Those are unrealistic means to success, and not everybody can meet those fucking parameters.
You've made money, and so you have a Bugatti. Listen, I have enough money to buy a nice supercar. I'd rather just keep my money in the bank because I'd like Ubering everywhere. It's just a sign of wealth. It's not like
Which you're dumb.
I don't believe
like to
that.
me, it's a little
No.
excessive to have. I've got 19 supercars. It's like you only really need one.
You can't when you
Okay.
make that the focal point so often. I
I
don't think you
agree.
can retreat behind the like. Oh no, well I'm just saying this will happen as a result of your wealth.
I
This is
agree.
like the goal for a lot of
I
people.
agree, but
No, you don't, because you're using this as a point to say that Andrew Tate's fucking based. What are
I
you
think a
talking
lot
about?
of it is that's his caricature, right?
Everything is just a character when you have no other good option, argument to make.
It wouldn't be surprising
Well,
me
it gives
if you
young
didn't.
men something to strive for. I
Yeah,
don't think
strive for
it's, why
Bugatti.
is it
Young men, you can give young men better things to strive for. You don't need to give young men a Bugatti to strive for. Give them general success and make the more realistic pinpoint of success of making good money, finding a person that they could be with in a long-term capacity that will love them and respect them, and living comfortably so you could have children. Like, we don't need to set it gives them something to look up to. Okay, cool. If I wanted to get really rich and successful because I wanted to cause a mass fucking genocide, you'd be like, yeah, it's probably not good. Why? It gives me something to look up to. I want to make money so I can fucking buy my own personal army and commit mass fucking murder. Well, that's not a good thing. Why? Well, it's something to look up to. It's like, it doesn't matter. What are you talking about? Who cares if it's something to look up to? This doesn't matter.
Yeah, why is it wrong? Okay, I grew up in the most. The comments will always say these are the cheapest rich people I've ever seen. Like y'all rich, but you look broke. And the comment section, my family. I grew up around frugal rich people. Like I understand the concept, but it's just like why
Yeah, that's probably better. Or just frugal people in general. That's why they have more money.
is it bad for men to want to strive to have 20 supercars?
Because
because it's unrealistic and it focuses on status symbols that will ultimately most likely destroy that person. And they're chasing the symbols rather than the actual good things. That's what it is.
Putting you in a mindset where you think that material things are going to improve your life, like spiritually, or improve your life in like a holistic, like psychological sense. It's a path that I've watched so many people go down before. You spent the first time on this program.
It's not to say that's the only thing, but can't you
Yeah.
acknowledge that there is some benefit in striving to make a lot of money?
No.
Yes.
I don't think if you're selling to a young man ever,
Listen. Okay. There's nothing wrong with striving to get a lot of money. But when you set that as the end goal focal point, that's bad. You need to set the realistic standards at being successful. And what that means to you, which usually means having a decent job long term and finding a partner and being able to like raise kids. That's where it comes from. Mutual respect for people around you, community building, things like this. This matters. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and go, I still want to strive for more, there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that you don't want to get into the mind where it's like, if I don't have the Bugatti, if I don't have the status symbol, I'm bad. Because then people are going to go and they're going to spend their money on status symbols. How many people are there, not to be rude, but especially when you hear from like rap and shit, how many young kids are going around looking for fucking, like, wanting to have like $120 shoes and fucking like fancy jewelry and cars over actually being secure in their shit outside of the symbols. People chase symbolism so much it's become self-destructive. It's not a good thing to chase status symbols. It's okay to like be like, oh, maybe I want this when you get to a practical area, but that's all extra. You want to like establish just general success in different ways first. Yeah, more money, more problems, bro. True.
it would never be like, if you do this, you can have a supercar. That would never be part of your talking points.
I act like you're talking to someone
this
that
is
had
nitpicking.
Hold on.
This is nitpicking.
Yes.
This is like half of the fucking videos that circulate with him on the
no,
internet. Is
there's
like,
too much,
look at
too
my
much stuff that he talks.
I love how they focused on the supercars, and now it's nitpicking once they have no other argument.
For some reason, I'm like obsessed with this straw man argument thing because you've used it a few times.
This is literally
Hear
what he
me
talks
out,
about.
bro.
I'm hearing you.
You
Go.
only can talk at one time.
Okay.
You're talking to somebody that doesn't have a car because he doesn't want to fucking drive, and I like being Ubered around. But I could buy a Maserati for $100 grand, no problem.
How is it a straw
But
man?
I prefer not to. Okay. So for me,
But you jerked off that he had the car. You thought it was really cool. What are you talking about? And then he contested that. Why? How is everything a fucking straw man?
to defend Tate, just understand the fact that I'm not a car guy.
Who cares?
The message is not about the Bugatti.
It is. It's part of it. It's about becoming unrealistically successful to a point of being toxic at the expense of building personal relationships, especially with young men to young women.
Bugatti is the reward after doing everything he talks about in his message, becoming better, faster, stronger, cooler, wealthier.
It's incredible that like you have to interpret Tate's message in a way he's never interpreted it. Like you have to run defense and like come up with these incredible different ways to interpret the message that Tate isn't giving. That's how you know that you're full of shit. When there has to be a whole sphere of people to defend what Andrew Tate's saying and then like try to recontextualize when they're really just lying about it to make it seem not so bad.
Sexier, healthier, all
Like,
that.
do you? Like, if you want to be a young person that chases these things, that's great because you're going to be a fucking failure and my children are going to be better than you. Because while you're chasing after fucking cars and watches and money and fucking women and fucking as many people as you want, I'm going to be raising children to go into things like technology. They're going to be going into like, computer science degrees. They're going to be going into, they're going to fucking, what the fuck is it called? They're going to be going into trades. They're going to be mechanics. They're going to be welders. They're going to be people that are going to be successful. They're going to be the doctors. This is the kids that I'm going to raise. So while I have my kids going after realistic expectations, they're going to be making a lot of money. They're going to be fulfilled not only financially, but personally because I'm going to teach them how to have healthy fucking relationships. You guys can get closer to killing yourselves when you don't actually get the fucking Bugatti. So do it. That's the good thing. Keep chasing Andrew Tate because it's one step closer to you killing yourself. I'm not trying to be rude, but if you want to jerk this narrative off, you're going to be a fucking lonely loser fucking piece of shit. You're going to be a 30-something-year-old man desperately trying to fuck 20-year-old girls who are like fucking fresh out of high school who were left back for 2 years because they're so stupid. There's nothing else that could ever give them any meaning in their life. And you're going to be fucking miserable because you're going to realize that you're 30-something and you have nothing in common with a dumb fucking 20-year-old who couldn't even pass math. That's what you're chasing. If that's what you want, be my guest. But I'm going to be building my relationships. I'm going to be happy. I already am happy because I have emotional fulfillment and I'm going to continuously chase money afterwards. Of course. But you're going to be desperate and you're going to be fucking sad and depressed. And 10 years from now, you're going to be fucking either coping like this guy here, or you're going to be fucking depressed and you're going to have a fucking gun to your head. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be from yourself. And I don't want you to do that. But if you're going to keep following Tate, it doesn't matter anymore. If it comes to a certain point where sitting here and going and over analyzing the manosphere, it's not even for my fucking benefit. Like, okay, I make money off the videos, but it's for the benefit of people who are gaslit by this fucking bald moron. Be gaslit by this one instead, because the reality is you're going to be fucking miserable, and if I get it through your head, it's more beneficial for you than for me. That's what it comes down to. Me like going out, or people going out of their way to be like, you're wrong. That just benefits you. There's no benefit. Like, that's for you. If you want to be, if you want to be a fucking failure, do your thing, brother. Just do your thing. That's all you have to do. Didn't I drop out? Yes, I dropped out. What was the point of you saying didn't I drop out? What does that have to do with anything? What is the fact that I was like a double honors accelerated student who dropped out of school because I had an issue with my fucking like mental health, my ADHD, and so I got a GED afterwards and moved on? What is that? What's the point of you bringing that up? What was it? Why? Like, what was the point of that to you? What was the benefit to that? There was none. That's all it is. Who cares? Fucking real people have flaws. What do you want me to tell you? There you go.
Then you can get the Bugatti. But don't get lost in the sauce. That is the message.
I said a girl doesn't know math. Okay. I mean, very clearly you... Okay. Sure. Like I said, I was an honor student that had dropped out because, I mean, there was a lot of different things. I came off my medication because it was something that was really fucking me up, and I got addicted to video games for sure. I'm still probably smarter than you, probably always was, and I wish I didn't fail by dropping out of school. Good message. Utilize your potential. I would go back and change it in a heartbeat. I don't know what you want me to tell you. If you're that educated to know that I dropped out of high school, you should probably know everything, because every time I talk about it, all the specifics to it, which means that you're just trying to stun lock me. That's all it really comes down to.
And once you make the money and get the fame and get the success, if you want to go buy a fucking what color is your Bugatti, go for it. Or buy 19.
That's not the
but
message.
to say, oh, Tate, he's got a bad message because of the Bugatti, that's the carrot at the end, like to like motivate you. But that's not the reason that you're in the gym every day. That's not the reason that you're working your ass off. That's not the reason that you're trying to improve. It's like, that's why I was saying it's like.
That is the reason. The whole focal point is a lot of money and a lot of women. That's the entire focal point. And the Bugatti is part of that. That's toxic to chase money and women. You're not going to be fulfilled or happy in your life. It'll be short-term fulfillment. It's cool to fuck a lot of girls. It gets boring. It gets old fast.
Straw man argument that it's all about material. It's not. That's like the payoff at the end. But like the essence of what he's doing is male self-improvement. And I think you would agree with that, no?
But if you were more motivated, wouldn't it have helped? What does that mean? I don't understand what you're saying. If I was more motivated to what? What is your point?
That's the biggest cope I've ever heard in my life.
Cope?
Yeah.
It is a
much
cope.
cope.
Cope of what?
Where are the videos showing that, like, if you live like a fulfilling life, this is what awaits you at the end? Maybe it's a happy marriage. Maybe it's like good friendships. Like maybe it's like a family that you love and care for. Maybe it's like
Rogelio Garcia became a member.
Hey, thank you so much for the renewed membership. I appreciate that.
participation in your community.
Yeah, but if you're talking to an 18-year-old kid, what's your
care about
family?
that.
What are you talking about? They want to
That's
fucking
fine.
get laid and
That's
get
okay.
paid.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a flaw with 18-year-olds. Yeah, but the 18-year-olds want money and to get laid. Yes, which is not something you should be focusing your life on. First of all, get it out. Do your thing. But at the end of the day, that's what you need to teach young people, because I'm older than you, and a lot of people would agree with me that are my age, that fulfillment, money is obviously going to be fulfilling to a point, but building emotional fulfillment is very important. As a young person, you don't understand that because you're a young, dumb person. I've been there too. So realistically speaking, you need to educate young people and teach them to be better. Just because a fucking 10-year-old wants to go around outside and fucking scream and yell doesn't mean that they shouldn't have to go to school. Well, why should we let 10-year-olds go to school? They don't want to do that. Oh, wow. That's his argument. Well, why 18-year-olds want this, so doesn't it mean that that's the good thing for them? No. Oftentimes, kids don't know what they want. They don't know what's good for them. That's why we have adults to teach them. Yeah, well, the 18-year-old wants money and women, so like obviously we should teach them to want that. Okay, well, if your 10-year-olds wants to pick your fucking nose all day and rip scabs off their body, should we let them do that as well? Like, I don't understand. Like, people are dumb. That's why you want to build people, teach them the right way to operate.
That's fine.
You sound like a girl.
If get laid,
He
if get
sounds like a
laid.
girl?
That's like what girls say.
Are you calling Destiny a girl?
These are the Christian conservative values that you guys hide behind when you want clicks, but none of you actually give a fuck about. Okay, this is what they actually talk about.
Christian,
If you've ever been
when
in a
have you
church your
ever
entire
heard me
life,
talk about
okay,
Jesus?
when I say you guys, I mean red pill in general. Or all doing this Christian.
True, red pills are constantly jerking off. off. Red pillers are constantly jerking off religion, even though they have no religious values.
I'm not a red pill guy. I interview a lot of red pill.
You're talking about fulfillment, self-improvement, all these things, okay?
I've never even talked about religion.
If you're trying to sell somebody a car at 18, and that's where the focal point is, 19, 20, 21, do you think that magically at 25, they're going to be like, oh, shit, I've had my eyes on the car the whole time, but like, man, I've got like a lot more fulfillment in my life now. Like,
Yeah,
that's not
dude.
gonna happen.
I used to want to fuck a million girls, now I have a girlfriend. Like, yeah, of course. Your attitudes change as you get older. He's preaching traditional masculinity, which is attractive to a lot of men. It's like the James Bond type of fantasy. It's like, yeah, good with girls, good at fighting, have a nice car.
You don't need to have a bunch of money and sex traffic women to be good with girls. I mean, like, you could teach these things without being disrespectful to women. That's the problem.
But yeah, you get at some point where you experience that and it gets old, and maybe you do settle down, or maybe you don't.
I've just,
But what
I've
you're
had it
saying
in
is
my
not gonna
family.
sound
I've seen it
sexy to
personally. There
anyone.
are so many people that fall down the consumerist hole. I've seen it happen time and time.
Yeah,
in
that would be
own
like my
family.
one criticism of
But
Andrew
if you-
Tate too.
Well, but that is like his major fucking
I don't
selling
think
point. And that's
so.
what Adam is defending. Yeah, it's like, look at the cars. Like, the car's the prize.
No,
but
I
eventually,
don't think-
you'll get the cars as a result of
Destiny,
all those
that's
other
why
things.
I said that.
It's always cars and young girls are the prize. It's not a prize. Like, it's just like, oh, it's not going to fulfill you. And if that's what you're going to chase, just God bless you. You're going to be miserable for your whole fucking life. It's funny.
I'm not a car guy, so I can't be defending
Yeah,
getting
because
a
you're
car.
trying to put yourself on trial to defend his person. But I'm not attacking you.
But what I'm saying is, it's easy. This is what I was saying with the straw man. It's easy to take his message and be like, he's just all about materialism and Bugattis, when that's not the message. It's work harder, get better, and once you do all that
No, it's not.
and increase your status, then you can get the car. You're focusing on all he talks about is getting a car.
Have you ever watched like his full War Room streams?
War Room streams, no, but I've seen like some of his long form content. We've seen
Okay,
over
so
it.
but you've never watched like a full War
War
Room
Room stream, no.
Okay, I
Have
was
you?
just wondering.
Have you watched a full War Room stream?
Bro, they're so adorable. Just ask questions. No point there. Just want
Her point is to say, well, you've never watched his full stream, so you don't actually know what he's talking about. I've probably watched like 10 hours of Andrew Tate at this point. I see him talking and interacting with other people, and he's constantly saying dumb things. I don't have to watch his War Room stream in order to know him as a person. That's like if you came and watched a video that I was talking about in this video, and like you said a bunch of shit, like you just acknowledged what I said about in general, and then somebody was like, well, yeah, but have you ever watched a full Papa Gut stream before? It's like, it's a dumb argument. You don't need to watch everything to know everything about somebody.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.